There's no time.
Lost.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, you guys out there. It's episode 187.
Yeah.
This one is going to be, I decided that I had to because over the past, what?
I'm just laughing. Let's go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 187. Yeah. Yeah, it's another missing persons one.
Yeah, because over the past several months, probably even up to maybe a year ago, I've been getting recommendations for missing persons cases to talk about because I think we've done two like compilation shows of missing persons cases in the past. So this would be volume 3 of our creepy disappearances. I'm going to talk about 4 cases on here, all of which were requested by various people at various times. So I just thought I would kind of put them all together. People seem to like these scary missing persons one.
Yeah, as you can see, we don't have the studio ready. We didn't get the chairs yet.
Yeah, I mean, but at least the background looks a little bit better than usual.
It's gonna. I think it's gonna. I'm gonna set it up so it looks cool.
Yeah.
Try to work the lights out.
Yeah.
Try to get better lighting. I'll look into upgrading this computer so it can handle HD.
That too.
Yeah, that might be.
I mean, ideally as well, I would like to have the studio like set up all the time, so we didn't have to like keep moving stuff around.
You just turn it on and go.
Yeah, that would be really nice if we could do that instead of having to like, because before I was like bringing in chairs from the living room and all that other kind of crap. So yeah, I ordered some chairs, as I said, on the matinee show on Sunday, and they're supposed to be here the day after this show goes up, I think.
Yeah, we got a decent camera. It's just that the computer can't really handle the
I know,
data
my poor little laptop is
set it up.
Several years old, and it's like,
we need to put some new cards in there.
I probably do, yeah. All right, so just had a couple of shout-outs. Got a new patron this week named Leander, so hello and welcome.
Welcome to the show.
Also, one of our patrons before who was already giving quite a bit per month, their name is Fade.
Yeah.
They actually increased significantly.
Yeah, he asked
to a very large amount.
Yeah, he asked like, "Who's your biggest?"
What the biggest one person like?
Who's
how
your
much they
biggest subscriber? You know, and Jenny's. I don't know how Jenny answered it, but anyway, he said he wanted to be number 1. We think it's a guy, right? It's a guy, Faye?
I think so.
All right.
I would imagine.
So you know,
that sounds like a guy thing. It's like I want to be the one that gives you guys the most. So thank you very much. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the only shout-outs. Do we have any other shout-outs you want to give? You want to do like a coronavirus update or anything like that?
Corona is just tearing the place up. We'll see. We'll see.
The only thing I think that's going to affect is that, and we've kind of gone into this the last couple weeks on our matinee show, is that a lot of movies, like A Quiet Place 2, which we were going to go see this week and stuff like that, have been like pushed back until later in the year because, you know, Mulan got pushed back, pretty much everything got pushed. Antlers got pushed back. Everything got pushed back. So, in our AMC theaters, I got an email earlier today that said what they were doing, even though like no new movies are starting. Right. They're like, well, what we're gonna do is they're upping their cleaning protocol, in between the movies, and also they're only selling like half the number of tickets that they would normally sell like per theater, so people don't have to sit that close together. Yeah. Which I was like, well, I don't see it being a problem, like, filling theaters up if no new movies are starting. But
they moved James Bond back, 007. They said it was for Corona. And then it leaked that, no, they moved it back because it sucked. Evidently, like, the test audiences didn't like it.
I don't know, because pretty much every other movie got pushed back, too. Yeah. Like I said, and I even had, earlier this week, I checked to see, and Quiet Place 2 was supposed to start like this upcoming Thursday night, and when I checked again, all of the movies that were supposed to start are gone.
They're going to fuck James Bond up. They're going to fuck James Bond up just like they did Star Wars. Just saying.
Why do you have that attitude? Why do you have that attitude?
I'm just saying.
You don't know that that's why it is. You just saw some like rando on YouTube like said that stupid crap.
I bet you it's
it
true.
might just
We're gonna
be.
see. We're gonna
but
see.
like I said, it might just be because of the fucking coronavirus. Because everything else, literally every other movie got pushed back as well. Like everything that was supposed to start this week, everything that was supposed to start in April, everything got pushed back. Okay. And I don't even like know when they're gonna do it. Like AMC announced that they were the half, only half ticket thing, where they're only selling like half the number of tickets for each theater. They said they're going to do that until April 30th, and then they're going to, like, reassess.
I just had a bad feeling about it.
No, you didn't. You were, like, all excited when you saw the trailer. You said, like, oh, that looks really good, you said.
I'm not talking about James Bond. I'm talking about the pandemic. I'm talking about Corona. When it started, I had a bad feeling about it. And then that shit came true. Because, I'm Nostradamus.
Well, like I said, I think...
saw tomorrow.
I think the problem is mostly going to be from people freaking out and buying up.
I'm not freaking out, though. I got everything I need.
When they don't.
I'm good.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not worried.
I got roof Koreans and everything.
I mean, you got what?
Roof Koreans.
What the hell are you talking about?
That's all them Koreans you put up on a roof to keep people out of the house. You didn't see that down the LA riots?
No.
Back in the 90s?
No.
Every Korean store had a bunch of Koreans on top of it with shotguns.
Oh.
That's
random.
Their shit didn't get looted. I'm saying I got my own roof Koreans.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, that was a really random reference. Like, I don't know why anyone I had no idea what you were talking about.
I keep track of shit, man. I keep track of it.
You keep track of shit from the 90s?
I keep track of the past.
I don't even remember that.
I'm like a codex of the ages, you know what I mean? The nexus of where everything fucking comes together. I remember everything.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of like General Patton. I can remember past lives, everything. I just had a bad feeling about it,
We did actually go to Captain D's and eat lunch today, though.
Yeah, I posted it. I posted that shit.
Place was empty. Although people came in later.
Yeah.
But they weren't letting because before you could go to like the little station and get your own condiments and stuff. They're not letting you do that anymore. They have to. Everything's like in individual packets.
They wanted you to order. They're like stand back from a counter when you order.
And then they were like, well, because they got to work there. And it's like, you know what I mean. So they just kept like they were like super like cleaning like big time, and then they had to bring you like all of the condiments like in packets and stuff.
It's just us and like a table of 3 big old black chicks over there eating all their fucking fish, and we're like I'm looking at the other one, they're looking at us like, yeah, we're looking around, it's fucking dead in there. A lot of people in the drive-thru though. Yeah,
I did see a lot of people in the drive-thru. And when we were driving around, like, it didn't really look like... I mean, it looked pretty much like a regular Saturday,
Had to get some of that fish, but had to get some of that seafood before the apocalypse, man.
Yeah, it just sounded really good today. Although I can't... I mean, when I eat lunch there, it's like... I'm like, well, I can't eat for 2 days now because that shit, I can barely finish it.
I'm going to have fun during the apocalypse.
So much breading.
I went through Katrina already, man. This is going to be easy.
That's what I mean.
It's going to be easy.
It's not kind of like, that's why it's kind of making me mad that like all these people are just like, oh, let's buy bottled water and all this shit. It's like, it's not a hurricane, okay? Yeah. It's like, you don't need, your taps still work.
Yeah.
Your toilet still flushes. You're fine.
I do not foresee us losing power.
Yeah, it's like, that sucked way worse.
That's what made Katrina so bad, is because it was hot as fuck. And it rained a lot for the first few days. And it was hot, and it flooded, and it got into the fresh water. So there was no AC, no power, there was flooding, and there was no fresh water. And the people got trapped, and there was no way to get food to them. And then there was no way to get masses of people out of the city. 3 days later, man, there was automatic gunfire, fucking rapes and murders. The cops were stealing shit. It got bad. There's a lot of stuff that got fucking erased from Katrina. There was used to be videos on YouTube that were related to Katrina that are now gone. They don't want you seeing that shit. Dead bodies laying on the ground and stuff. Katrina was really bad. It's not going to be that bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like, even though, I mean, I live in Florida, and we've been through, like, some hurricanes, and I've been through, like, some hurricanes that were not really bad, but, like, you know, the power would be out for, like, more than a week and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of like, this is kind of like nothing. As long as I still have air conditioning and running water, I'm good.
Yeah, and... to this day, there's many thousands of people still missing from Katrina.
I believe it.
A lot of them women. Just murdered and raped, gone. Because it was free.
Yep.
Yeah, it's free.
We women, we're free.
It doesn't cost any money to kill people.
We just get snatched straight off the street.
I think it was home invasions and also stuff that happened inside of damn buses and evacuation places. You know what I mean? It just a little bit here and there. It all kind of added up. But there are still thousands of people missing.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I believe it. It was
It's
that was an apocalyptic disaster.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when you see stuff like that, and like I said, even though I've never been through anything as bad as Katrina, I've been through like some hurricanes where power was out, where my street was flooded, where shit like that. Shit, we've even had like fucking brush fires that were worse than that. So I'm just kind of like...
Y'all need to chill out.
I'm not belittling anybody that's like in an area where it's bad, and if you want to like wear masks and stuff, that's you do you, but it's like, I'm just like not worried about it.
Y'all need to chill out. You need to chill out. We will not lose power. I'm going to talk y'all through this.
I got an email from my sister earlier, and they're actually letting them work from home.
Yeah.
So she's in Georgia, by the way.
Yeah. Just get some food, man. Beans and rice.
Well, according to a lot of people that are out today, everybody's buying everything.
They're buying everything. Here's the deal.
Our friend Tom, not you, but we have another friend.
We got another friend Tom. Yeah. We got many friends Toms.
We actually
Big
do.
Tom?
Yeah.
Big Tom.
I think it was Big Tom.
All right.
Because I was just like scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and he was in the Sam's in Lake Mary that we go to.
Yeah.
And he said pretty much like all the meat's gone, like all the fucking, like everybody, it was packed. And I mean, it's always packed on Saturday. Like we try to never go to Sam's on Saturday, even when there's not a pandemic, because it's fucking...
I got more Spam than a man's ever seen in one spot. I got that flavored Spam. Smoked, jalapeno, bacon flavored Spam.
We have
I was posting that shit up, sampling it, and I got jackasses on Tom Shitty Movies talking about how bad fucking Spam is. I'll fucking block your ass. I just took the comment away. All right, that shit keeps up. I will fucking block you. All right, I come from an army that was powered by Spam. World War II was won on Spam. That kept the American army and the Soviet army going. It's not mystery meat. It's pork shoulder and bacon, boneless, cooked in a can. Fucking good. It used to be a little too salty. It's not salty as it was.
Yeah,
the flavored
I think
Spam's a lot better.
I think because people had health concerns about how much sodium was in there. I mean, I think like stuff like Campbell's soup and stuff like that, I think they toned down the sodium
from the 30s.
over the years.
It's from the 20s or the 30s.
Well, yeah, it's a preservative.
Yeah, back then
had
they
to
thought
be
you had to have
then.
a whole bunch of salt in it to preserve it, but you don't really need that much.
You don't need that.
You don't need that.
And like
much.
I said, nobody wants to fucking
and
eat
the
that
flavored
much salt
stuff,
in one sitting.
It's cheap. It's shelf stable forever. You can feed 3 people per can and a meal out of that. Mix it with all kinds of stuff, and I like the bacon, the smoked, and the jalapeno. The flavored stuff's pretty good. I haven't tried the turkey.
This podcast brought to you by
This podcast brought to you by Spam.
Maybe they'll sponsor
Spam.
us.
The real cram. If you've ever played fucking Fallout 4, there's cram.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it's Spam, but it's like the cram.
I know. I love that they call it
Cram.
Cram.
You
That
slice it
sounds delicious.
thin and fry it, and you can do it. It's like lunch meat, but better.
Yeah, I still can't. But yeah,
no refrigerated needed. No refrigeration needed.
Well, the thing about it is that even before, I mean, because we always do like once a month, we go to Sam's and like just get fuck tons of stuff. So we just have so much fucking food.
Yeah, I always get a couple cans of that shit though, man. That's the original MRE.
We've got like a year's worth of food in this house, and we did like even before that.
Yeah.
Even before all that shit happened.
And my friends in the fucking guns and ammo business, man, ammo is just fucking selling out in the United States. What was that?
I don't know.
Something fell over.
Probably.
Ghost.
Yeah, we got ghosts in here.
No,
I don't know what that was.
because-
Was it my knee hitting the underside of the desk? I don't think it was. I thought it was.
But yeah, ammo's fucking selling out too. 9mm and 5.56. Fucking everybody's buying it up.
Yep.
Buying it up.
Like I said, everybody panicking about stuff is going to be way worse than the
No,
actual
what it is
virus.
it's people trying to get ready. Where there is no shortage of food, it's just that the trucks can't bring it fast enough.
Yeah.
There will be food.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Nobody
I'm
has
not
to really
about it.
worry about it. There'll be food. Just get some saved up a little bit. I think, you could still find stuff to eat.
Yeah, it's like
there's still stuff. It's just might not be the choice stuff. Like
and there's stores everywhere.
They're
and there's like
everywhere,
it's like go to fucking
Yeah.
7-Eleven. They have like
Right.
canned soup and beefaroni and shit like that if you really need it. People don't
Yeah.
think to go there to buy food. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's, Walmart and shit like that's going to be sold out.
Make a recommendation to everybody listening. There's a program on YouTube called Surviving Armageddon. and it was a History Channel documentary from probably like 2005 or 6, 7 maybe. No, it's later than that. It must have been 2010. It's for free. Watch that. It's about global pandemic, and it's actually about a huge SARS outbreak and the worst case scenario of what might happen. Surviving the Apocalypse on YouTube. Go ahead and watch that. It's like a basic training video on how to survive an apocalypse. I recommend it to anybody. It's accurate. A lot of it was based upon what happened in Katrina.
Yeah.
All right. So check it out.
All right. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about 4 different missing persons cases that have been recommended to me over the previous months and years that I'm just now getting around to talking about.
Hold on 1 second.
What's that?
Did I say Surviving the Apocalypse? That's not what it was called. It was called After Armageddon.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was called. It's on YouTube. After
Yeah.
Armageddon. I think I said Surviving the Apocalypse.
You did, yeah.
No. I thought that's what it was called. But actually, when I went back and checked it, it's called After Armageddon
Oh, okay.
on YouTube. And it will come up. There's only 1 copy of it. But go ahead.
I'm sure it's getting a lot of views.
Actually, I just checked it. It was only had like a couple 100,000 views. But it's been up forever. Like 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, the first case I want to talk about now, this was technically a missing persons case for a while, but this woman was found alive. However, the weird thing is what happened in the interim while she was gone. You know what I mean? That's what they're still investigating. So, the most recent info I have on this case is actually from Christmas Eve of 2019, so this is kind of where the investigation is standing at this point. So this is the case of Sherri Papini. Now, when she was allegedly abducted, it was November 2nd, 2016. Now, she was 34 years old at the time. Now, she was supposedly out jogging a mile from her house, which is in Redding, California. Now, she went missing, and then 3 weeks later, she was found 150 miles away, like wandering by the side of County Road 17 with like a chain like around her midsection and around her wrists and stuff like that. Now, she said that she was abducted by 2 Hispanic women.
Yeah, I remember this.
Who wore masks and had a gun, but during the whole 3 weeks she was gone, she never got a look at their face. She didn't know where they took her. And all this other stuff. So
yeah, and she had been branded too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but the weird thing
That's
about
just what
it,
the news says.
the weird thing about it is that like a lot of info about how she was found, it's like it seems like the cops and her husband are keeping shit on the down low, and I'm not really sure why that is.
Might be part of the investigation.
So yeah, so there are some people that the cops are saying we don't have any reason to like disbelieve that she was abducted. But, some other true crime podcasts that I've seen about it are saying, maybe that it was a hoax.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where I
don't
stand
think
on
so.
that. It's, what I mean? It seems like a very strange thing to hoax, although weirder things
From
have
what
happened.
I remember, from what I remember, and I haven't looked at the case recently, I didn't know you were going to mention this one. The police would not throw this case out. They thought it was credible. She was malnourished. She was beaten. She had been branded with something.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't release
They
the
won't
details
say,
of
like,
what
the
had
brand is.
happened. They believe, and on the back of that, and it was 2 Hispanic females, but they ended up letting her go for some reason or another. What I think happened is some 2 Central or South American girls, probably Central American girls that had some connections with maybe organized crime, had some cockamamie kind of plan to abduct some girl and sell her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe they did this. This was not a well thought out type of thing. And it turned out that they weren't able to sell her. So they let her go. That's what I think happened.
Yeah,
Basically,
it's possible.
I think
Or
you think they were going to try to sell her to like MS-13 or Mexican mob or
yeah,
something
like
like
sex
that.
trafficking.
So sex trafficking. Send her back down to some Central American company and put her in a brothel. But they probably just did it kind of like on a whim, not having a buyer and not really having a means. They just thought maybe they could make some money doing that. That's what I think. Or the buyer fell through. Something like that.
Yeah, because it does seem like a little bit
Yeah.
weird. I don't know. It's just a really, really weird case. So
because they evidently they didn't really sexually assault her. They just stored her.
Yeah.
And beat her and kind of mistreated her a little bit, but then let her go.
Yeah.
And there was evidently some kind of hoaxery or in her past where they had faked something years ago, but it didn't seem to be related to this. So, you know what I mean? Like, some people say, oh no, they faked a disappearance years ago. But evidently that was just kind of bullshit. That really didn't happen.
It wasn't, I don't believe it was a disappearance. I believe it was something more akin to, because I think, and you know, please forgive me if I'm remembering this wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Sherri Papini had like some kind of history of mental illness, and she had done some kind of thing with her family where I don't know if she like faked her own death or
there was something
like that
right.
a long time ago. So she did kind of have a history, which is why like some people think that maybe this was a hoax as well.
I don't think it was. Though.
But you know what I mean? It's possible that, I mean, you know, it would be weird, that somebody that had hoped something like that in the past like had something like really happen to them. So I'm not gonna like have
unless you know something else based on what the police told the media.
Well, so this is basically what happened. And okay, so it was early November 2016. She supposedly goes out jogging like on this trail that's only like a mile away from her house, right? So her husband Keith comes home. He worked at Best Buy. So he comes home in the evening and his wife isn't home and their kids aren't home. Now he says that Sherri always picked their kids up from daycare, and the fact that the kids were not there, and then when he called the daycare and the kids were still there and said, hey, she never came and picked them up, so that immediately made him very alarmed.
Right.
Now, they have his 911 call where he's calling and reporting her missing. It's really weird because I don't like to judge because I know some people, when they're calling to report stuff, they sound like super calm and everything.
Oh, that doesn't mean anything.
That's what I mean. It was weird because he just sounded very like casual. Well, the weird thing about it is that he's like, okay, so the kids aren't there. He calls the daycare. They said, yeah, she never showed up. Sherri never showed up. And he had an app on his phone, like Find My iPhone. So he did that to find her iPhone. And he found her phone, like, on the trail where she had supposedly been running. And it was just, like, laying on the ground. And with the earbuds kind of like someone had just, like, taken the earbuds out of the pocket and, like, laid it on the ground. And they were apparently, like, strands of hair, like, stuck on, like, somebody had kind of, like, pulled the earbuds out of her ears. So, and this was, like, a mile away from their house. So she's gone for, like, 3 weeks. And then, like, the day before Thanksgiving, 150 miles away, somebody reports they see this woman that's just, like, wandering kind of... They have, like, a little bit of video of it, but she's kind of, like, wandering up and down, like, the side of the road. And she looks kind of skinny and beat up, and she still has, like, restraints on. So they find her, and she says that it was 2 Hispanic women in a dark-colored SUV. She didn't know if it was black or blue or green or whatever. She just said it was a dark-colored SUV. She said they either always had masks on or kept a bag over her head, so she never really saw what they looked like. She said that one of them was, like, kind of older and had, like, straight dark hair, like, and kind of thicker eyebrows, whereas the other one was a little bit younger and had thinner eyebrows. Because I guess because I have a picture of the, like the suspect sketches or whatever. And it looked like they didn't have full masks on, but it just had like, they had bandanas over like the bottom half of their face. So you could still see like their eyes and a little bit of their hair and stuff. So when Sherri is found, she supposedly weighs 87 pounds. So they've starved her somewhat. Her hair has all been cut off. Not all of it, but it's been, cut really short, supposedly. She had kind of been beaten up. Her nose was broken. And she had a brand on her left shoulder, supposedly, although police will not reveal to the media what the brand is. So I don't know.
I heard it was some kind of racial slur.
I don't know if that's what it was. Like nothing I saw, like the cops just said that they weren't saying what it was. It's weird because I know this is like an ongoing investigation and cops, don't usually like to comment too much to the media about an ongoing investigation,
which lends credibility in my mind.
Yeah, which maybe they do, and they have come forward and said there's no reason to believe that that she's making it up, even though, like I said, she did have kind of like a history of that.
Yeah, I remember one policeman asking a direct question from somebody in the media, and he was like, "Oh no, I believe her." That's what he said.
Yeah, it's just
so that means that there's. Think about it. What's the motive? You know what I mean? You have to break your own nose and starve yourself for a long time. And
yeah, it does seem a little far-fetched.
They never cashed in on this.
Well, they did have a GoFundMe. Keith started a GoFundMe, and I believe they raised over $40,000.
That's pretty big. That's a big fucking way, but I don't think that's what the deal was.
But yeah, so I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean anything because a lot of people start GoFundMes, like especially when someone has gone missing or they want to raise money for reward money or things like that.
The police have interrogation techniques that they can get down to the truth. They can get down to the bottom of it if this person had hoaxed it. I don't think they did.
Yeah, I think
she passed their test.
It seems like a crazy story, but I mean, the cops do seem to be taking this fairly seriously. Like I said, they have come forward and said that they do believe her, that they're investigating it, although that they're not like ruling anything out. They did say that also.
Yeah, they're just waiting to see for more information.
Yeah, but they have actually they've released like 20 search warrants. And they've gone through like bank records, cell phone records, social media profiles of various people and things like that. But they are not saying like who the search warrants were against or anything like that. They have given Keith, the husband, they gave him a polygraph, which he passed, although investigators have said that they're not ruling out that he had something to do with it.
What does that mean?
Well, that's what I mean. They said we're just keeping all possibilities open, although they did note that he did pass a polygraph test.
Having something can do with it can be interpreted to mean many different things.
Now they did say they did say that they thought that maybe Keith had been just from the things that he said to the media might have been compromising their investigation a little bit. So I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Yeah.
So the strange thing though is that even though Sherri was gone for 22 days and was apparently in the custody of these people or more people than the ones that took her, she doesn't have a real, or at least as far as anyone knows, she doesn't have any idea of like where she was being kept or how many people there were, or she doesn't seem like she's been real forthcoming about what happened all that time or where she was or why they let her go. Or anything like that. At least not that they're releasing to the public. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
They're probably keeping that under wraps, I would think.
Yeah, it maybe so. It's like, I'm not really sure. This is, as I said, still an active investigation. All this information this actually came out in People magazine on Christmas Eve of 2019. So that's the most recent thing about it. And I imagine that they're still investigating this. And there's still a $10,000 reward for information. So if anybody has any information on this woman's case about who took her or, anything else about
I'm sure she had a lot more details about where they took her, but they're not releasing that to the public.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. It's like maybe they're just trying to, maybe they kind of have suspicions about...
Yeah, the cops aren't going to fucking give up they're not going to give
I mean, it's not something that's, happened such a long time ago or they're trying to, like, jog people's memories. I mean, this only happened, like, a few years ago.
I'm going to say it was something hokey and amateurish. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You know how, like, when they took Elizabeth Smart?
Yeah.
Some dude, he was going to have a whole harem of wives, so he just kind of kept her in a trash pile for a little while and she got out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, when they didn't know where she was, you could dream up any old scenario to scare the shit out of yourselves. Really what it was just some hokey motherfucker took her.
Yeah.
It's going to be something kind of like that. Some hokey-ass chicks decided to take another woman and try to sell her, but they didn't even have the means to do so. It was something like that.
Yeah, maybe they just kind of like thought of it on a whim, which seems like a weird thing to do, but you know what I mean?
They thought they could, let's go catch a white girl and sell her.
Yeah.
But then they didn't know who to sell her to, or something like that.
Yeah, they didn't think it through, maybe.
They thought that would be easier than it would, you know what I mean? They thought that would be easier to do in reality than it really is.
Yeah.
Because, they probably didn't know anybody. Mexican mob would be like, wait a minute, who? No, we're not touching that. You might be FBI. It was something like that.
You have to have contacts,
right? Or maybe it was
to do that kind of shit.
Maybe it was something kind of culty. I don't know.
That's a possibility, also.
I hadn't
thought of that.
Cults do weird shit.
Yeah.
And maybe it was kind of like them a cult of two crazy bitches trying to get a third one and make her like a recruit in some weird way, but they haven't given us that information yet.
Yeah.
Might have been something like that.
Yeah, that's possible also.
They were trying to remember Patty Hearst. They were trying to do like a Patty Hearst thing.
Yeah, where they were trying to like
brainwash her and convert her into one of their own. It might be something like that, but the cops haven't given us the information.
Yeah.
Might have been something like that.
The only thing that came out later on was that they did actually find DNA of two people. They found male DNA on the clothing that she was found wearing, which I don't believe belonged to her. So they found male DNA there, and they also found a female DNA like on her body when they examined her like at the hospital. Now, both of these DNA profiles have been uploaded to the CODIS database. However, they do not match any previous DNA that is on file. Yeah. So that's kind of going nowhere. Now, the only other avenue that I know of that they were exploring is that Sherri Papini apparently had a male friend. They're not really saying whether this was like a romantic relationship or anything like that. This guy lived in Michigan. And they found like a bunch of texts and phone calls between the two of them going back like several years. So, they're keeping that possibility open also, that maybe she faked it like to go live with this guy or to go run off with this other dude. And then like she got cold feet and decided not to, or something like that.
Yeah, and then she has to starve herself.
Yeah, they're leaving that open as a possibility. But as I said, they're like the relationship that she had with this guy, they're not making it clear whether it was just like an old friend that she had who happened to be a guy, because they actually apparently had known each other for several years, or whether there was a romantic relationship going on such that she would have wanted to take off and like leave her husband over it and couldn't just go about it the normal channels.
She faked the whole thing and then cooked this story up. That there might be a possibility, but then you have to break your own nose and cut your own hair.
That's what I mean. That's the only thing. I mean, because I've been watching like a couple different like true crime podcasts where they were talking about this, and it does seem like a lot of them kind of are leaning toward her like faking it just because it sounds like a far-fetched kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, but a lot of the shit we've covered on this fucking program are very far-fetched, but it was true.
Yeah, and I mean, I would be more, yes, they raised more than $40,000 on GoFundMe, and no one really knows what they did with that money. Even though I assumed that they started raising it like for reward money, like for information when she was still missing. So no one really knows where that went. Now, some people were like, oh, maybe she did it for attention. But the thing about it is that she's not really, she's kind of gone into hiding, like, since this case has been, she hasn't come out and given interviews or anything like that. Like, every now and then her husband will come out and, like, say some shit. But it's like, it's not like they're trying to, like, hog the spotlight or, like, get all, you know what I mean? So, anything like that. So, yes, she did have like a history of mental illness. Yes, she did have a thing where she either tried to fake her own death or, tried to make her family think she had committed suicide or something like that, like several years in the past. So some people have been speculating that maybe she had mental issues and concocted this whole thing. But like you said,
that's kind of
breaking your own nose.
Yeah, well, if you're crazy though, maybe you might do that.
I don't know.
And then you go live out in the woods and then put on some hobo clothes and come back 22 days later. But you got to have some. The crazy has to be strong in you
to do something to like that extent.
And most crazy people are fucking flimsy. They won't. You know what I mean? They won't go through it. A 22
that takes a pretty
ordeal.
Profound crazy to like.
Yeah, you gotta have.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, you gotta be dedicated to the crazy. And most crazy people are wishy-washy. They'll do it for 6, 7, 8 hours, and they go, "Oh, I'm done," and then they go back home.
Well, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, so
I'm done with this stunt. Yeah,
I think she got abducted, or she faked it. She got abducted, which that's not answering much.
That's what I mean. It could be either thing.
And then you have to brand yourself. And
that's what I mean. That's the only thing that kind of... It would be different if she... Because some other true crime podcast point is like, oh, it seems interesting that she came back like right before, like the day before Thanksgiving. Like she didn't want to like leave her family because she had kids and shit.
Yeah.
So it's like she didn't want to leave her kids behind like on Thanksgiving, and she changed her mind about maybe she was running off with a dude or something like that. But... the fact that she supposedly had a brand, that her nose was supposedly broken, that she had supposedly lost... I don't know how much she weighed before, but she apparently weighed 87 pounds when she got back. So she looked like a very small woman. So and it's 3 weeks. So how much weight can you lose in 3 weeks?
If you're not eating much, quite a bit.
Well, that's true, because we watched, what's that fucking Naked and Afraid?
Yeah.
Like, and they always tell you, like, how much. And I think they do that for 3
Right.
weeks, don't they? It's 21 days,
Yeah,
right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them lose, like 14 pounds, 20. The
30,
dudes always lose more, which pisses me off so much. It's like the same amount, like the dude and the woman are eating the same amount of food, and like the dude's like, and he lost 30 pounds. I'm like, you asshole.
Well,
and then the woman lost like 8 pounds.
Our metabolisms run harder.
I guess so.
We age in dog years.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's just every time I see that, it always makes me go, it makes me so angry.
I think she was abducted.
Like I said, if she came back like after less than 22 days and she wasn't like all beat up and stuff, then I would maybe be more likely to believe that she faked the whole thing. But I don't know. You'd have to be really really committed to.
If she was gonna fake it, she'd only be gone for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's
And
you would think that, right?
She's fooling around with some dude. She'd get the dick, and then she'd get sick of it. She'd get the dick, and then she'd get sick of the dick, and then she'd fucking go back home and tell this big old fucking story, but there's nothing to really back it up.
Yeah,
her nose is broken. She's skinny as shit. She's branded. Her original clothes are gone. She sacrificed her own phone. Nah, I think somebody abducted her. I mean.
But like you said, it seemed like they didn't really like think it through all the way. They didn't think
it was some kind of hokey fucking cockamamie fucking plan these people fucking cooked up.
Yeah.
Think of the crazy fucking shit we've talked about on this fucking program for the past couple of years. Imagine if somebody like Edmund Kemper got a hold of your ass, but you got away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you told what's the craziest motherfucker we've talked about?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay. Imagine the shit that they would do. All right, and then you go back and tell the authorities, and they're like, "No,
that doesn't sound super plausible."
But no, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen that often.
The dude that was collecting dead pussy.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Ed Gein.
No, the other one, the one that made the doll and digging up women.
Oh, that necrophile. I can't remember what his name is.
Using a toilet paper tube for a pussy, and just I hate to be dirty about it, but come on, you guys are regular listeners, you know who I am.
We're all adults here.
I
hope.
I'm already, halfway through that drink. I give a shit. I'm just saying, there's some crazy shit that people do. That if you were just some random person and you got mixed up with this guy, and then you went and told the cops, they wouldn't believe you.
Yeah.
At first, and if you didn't have any because
evidence. That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
But it happened.
Right.
I mean, crazy stuff. It's not that common, so you can see why cops would be like, nah.
Exactly.
But
like the dude
it does happen every now and then.
Like the dude with the boy board.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Dean Corll, right?
Dean Corll. What happens if
the Candyman?
What happens if Dean Corll got hold of your ass and you're a teenage dude who's running, you've had trouble with the law, fucking smoking dope and stealing shit, and then you run to the cops and you say, yeah, this guy tied me to a board, had my brother on the other side of the board, made me beat my own brother to death with sticking glass rods up in my dick and crushing them. The cops fucking wouldn't believe you.
They probably wouldn't.
They'd go, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And then they would go, pull it out. You know what I mean? And then you pull it out and you show them all that fucking glass damage, and they might go, you're bullshitting, you're making it up.
You did that to yourself.
You did that to yourself.
You're into
Imagine that. Yeah. That's some kind of kinky gay shit you come up with. That's how the cops would come at you.
Well, yeah.
That didn't happen.
You can see why some shit doesn't get reported.
Yeah. And then they track down Dean Corll and he talks his way out of it.
Yeah.
When he's got all his dead boys up in the damn storage unit, buried down underneath the ground. He's a proud military man. He would never do that.
That's what they always say.
Yeah.
He was so quiet. He was such
a nice man. You never can tell. You never
They
can
said
tell.
that about Ed Gein too.
A lot of shit.
They said that about John Wayne Gacy. He was such a nice
A
man.
lot of shit depends upon belief.
Yeah.
Even Bela Lugosi, when he was playing Dracula, Dracula says, "My biggest power is that you don't believe." Remember that shit? Remember?
Wasn't that in the Bible about the devil or something?
I don't know. No, it might have been.
That was
I don't know where he got
that
that
was
from.
like the devil's
I don't
greatest
remember.
powers that people don't believe in him or something.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact line, but
I don't
fucking
either.
Bella fucking says that shit just slick as shit. You know what I mean? Like as cool as he was. You know what I mean? He says, one of the biggest powers is that mankind does not believe that this is possible. So I would say that there's a good chance that maybe something happened to this woman. I think so. I'd give her an 80%.
I kind of would too. It's like, I don't like to stigmatize people that have mental issues and maybe, because bad shit can happen to those people too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I think it's far out there. I think maybe something happened to her.
And the fact that she had strangers' DNA on her, then they still don't know who the fuck's DNA that is, or if they do know, they're not telling anybody. But I
think there's an 80% chance that she's telling the truth.
I think she is too.
And I think there's also an 80% chance that the cops have not told us everything that they know.
Well, they're clearly not, because and like I said, you can't blame them because it's an ongoing investigation, and they don't want
So the story that we're telling here is just based upon what the police have decided to tell us. There's got to be more to this story we don't know. Yeah,
and I'm sure that she has been interviewed at length. I'm sure her husband has been interviewed at length, and I'm sure that both of them have told the cops stuff that the cops are not releasing.
Right. The cops may have released misinformation too.
Yes, they do that sometimes regularly. As well. Yeah. Well, because that's how you, you sift through people that, because there's all kind of people that will report.
So you people
that'll confess to crimes that they didn't do it.
Yes, you people as the listeners, the story we just told you guys is the story that the police put out. It may be false.
Some of that shit might not be true. Yeah, but like I said, that's they don't do it to be mean. They just do it.
They do it as part of the investigation.
Yeah. Because like I said, that's the only way they can get through, because their people will come and confess to shit.
Right.
That they didn't do. Look at fucking Henry Lee Lucas, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, they'll put out false shit, and if you come and false shit that's kind of true but not really.
Yeah.
And then people come forward saying, "I did that," and then they say, "Well, really, what happened?" And they tell the same fucking story that the police put out. The police know that this guy's full of shit.
Nope.
Because that's a fake story.
You go home.
Go ahead.
And take your meds.
Right.
Yeah, so like I said, that's pretty much all they know. And that was the most recent, like I said, the most recent news story about it that I could find is from Christmas Eve of 2019, and that was in People magazine. So I would assume that is the most recent information that they have. So the next one I want to talk about, and somebody recommended this, and actually I'm kind of upset that I hadn't heard that much about this one, because this happened right here in Orlando, Florida, where we are right now. This is the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse. Now, this woman has not been found. She disappeared in 2006, early 2006, and they still have no idea where she is. Now,
doesn't look good.
No, it really doesn't. And this is really creepy. So, what ended up happening, I think she was originally from Tampa, because she graduated from high school over there. And then she went to UCF, University of Central Florida, and graduated in 2003. She had a degree in finance. So in 2006, when she disappeared, she was working as a finance manager at Central Florida Investments timeshare company, and that's in Ocoee, which is a suburb of Orlando. I actually used to work in a print shop over in Ocoee, so I know exactly where that is. Now, shortly before her disappearance, she had bought a condominium in a new building near the mall at Millennia. We know that where that is. What they're doing, the neighborhood around where the mall at Millennia is kind of a high crime area, but they're trying to gentrify it. So they built the mall at Millennia, which is a really, really nice mall. And then they started building all these really nice condos and apartment complexes and stuff like that around it, because they're trying to essentially push out all the old neighborhoods that are kind of high crime.
Yeah, they're not making any money.
Yeah.
Yeah, happens a lot.
So the building that she lived in, she bought a condo and it was like brand new. And I think either she was the only one in the building or there was only like one other tenant so far. So this is like a brand new building. And I believe it was within walking distance of Mall at Millennia. So now the weekend before she went missing, she had actually been on a vacation with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. Now, Rob Allen they were in a long distance relationship. He actually lives in Fort Lauderdale, which if you're not from Florida is about 3 or 4 hours from here. So they just kind of they tried to see each other every weekend. They would drive back and forth and do FaceTime or whatever. But they had been to St. Croix and the Virgin Islands the weekend before she went missing. Now they came back on the Sunday night, and she stayed at his house in Fort Lauderdale and then drove back to Orlando and went to work that day at 6, which I don't know how she wasn't fucking tired, but okay, because that's a long drive if you didn't know. So she drove,
especially I-4.
Yeah, well, actually,
all that congestion from the old I-4.
Well, it would be 95. Am I thinking 95 over to I-4? I guess it would be, because Fort Lauderdale you'd have to take 95 up to, because I-4 only goes east-west.
Right. All right.
There might be another road.
Better
I'm not
than
really
me.
sure.
She grew up here.
Yeah, I'm from here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know all the roads and stuff because I've only been to Fort Lauderdale once or twice in my whole life. Because that's way the fuck down there. I don't know if you was like Florida. It's long.
That's near the Scientology base, isn't it?
No,
it isn't. Okay.
Clearwater. That's over on the West Coast. That's by Tampa.
All right. Right.
If there's Tampa,
I've been to Clearwater.
Yeah, Tampa, Clearwater, and St. Pete are three massive cities, and they're all it's one big mega city. Yeah. Really.
I've never been to Fort Lauderdale.
I've been there 2 times. I think I went to some fetish parties down there and some shit like that.
She goes to the fetish parties.
Well, I used to back in the old days.
Popping them big old things out.
I didn't have those then.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I did.
You had big boobs.
Yeah, I did. It's just after I lost a bunch of weight and they kind of deflated. You know what I mean? So she drives from Fort Lauderdale back to Orlando, and goes straight to work. Now, while they had been on vacation, I think they were in St. Croix for a week. While they had been on vacation, her 21-year-old brother, Logan, had been staying at her condo, with her permission. I guess he had some friends there. They'd have a party or something. They didn't trash it or anything like that, apparently. But they had been staying there. Now, either Logan or one of his friends had left his cell phone at the condo, when they left. So one of the phone calls that they had between her and Logan, before she disappeared, was her saying, "Yeah, I found this cell phone. I'll mail it to you, or you can come pick it up, or whatever." So the last time that Jennifer Kesse was seen, she was leaving work at 6 p.m. on January 23rd, 2006. Now, according to everyone that knew her, her boyfriend, her parents, everything like that, she was very, very, very safety conscious. And had probably become more so since moving into this particular condo, because she said that, the area around there, the condo, where the condo is nice, but it's the area surrounding that is kind of a high crime area. Also, there was so much construction, and some of the other condos were still under construction or being renovated or whatever. So there was a lot of workers wandering around the property, and she said that a lot of them had catcalled her and sexually harassed her and stuff. They would always yell at her when she was going out, and it made her uncomfortable. So she had a rape whistle, she had the whole shit. And she's anytime she was walking to and from her car, at the thing, she would always have somebody on the phone, so she would always call all the time, either her brother or her parents or her boyfriend or something, to let them know where she was. So she's talking to her dad on the phone about 6:15 p.m., and that's when she was driving home from work. She called her boyfriend, Rob, at about 10 p.m. Like I said, he was in Fort Lauderdale. Now, the next morning, what she would normally do is she would usually call her boyfriend or text him before she left for work. She did it every day, and they said she's very, very habitual in that way. She was always very careful about letting everybody know where she was because she lived alone. So he thought it was very weird that on that morning he didn't get a phone call or a text from her before she went to work. So he called, and her phone went right to voicemail. Now, he was concerned, but he's well, maybe she's just really busy or whatever. And he had a meeting that morning at work, so he was worried, but he wasn't panicking or anything like that. Now, the next thing that happened is that Jennifer Kesse did not turn up at work. And this was also very unusual because she was very conscientious. And immediately her manager and all her coworkers became very alarmed because she had not called in or anything like that. So the manager at the place where she worked called her parents. Now, her parents lived 2 hours away, I assume in Tampa, because that's where she went to high school. So he calls the parents and they start driving to Orlando so they can all kind of get together and figure out where she went. Now, when the parents get to her condo, I guess they had a spare key, or they knew where she kept a spare key or whatever. So they saw that her car was gone. She had a black Chevy Malibu, I believe. It was a 2004. They saw that her car was gone, but they were like, okay, well, that's not that unusual. So they went into her condo and nothing seemed amiss. They said it looked like there was like a damp towel on the bed. The shower was still wet from the inside. Her bed wasn't made. Like there were some clothes laid out. Her makeup was kind of like out in the, like she had gotten up, taken a shower, gotten ready for work like she normally would. There was no sign of a struggle. There was no sign of forced entry. Like the condo was locked and everything like that. So, that's a little strange. So,
but the car was gone.
The car was gone, but they found it later. I'll tell you.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, so what must have happened is that she got up, got ready for work, left her condo like she usually did on her way to work, and must have been abducted at some point while she was walking toward her car, like in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, January 26th, which was a couple days later, they found her 2004 Chevy Malibu parked at another apartment complex about a mile away. Now, initially, investigators were excited about this because they found out that this particular apartment complex had hidden cameras and that the cameras were pointed basically right toward where her car was parked. So they were like, woohoo, we'll see who put it there. So they watched the tape. Unfortunately, you can see a person getting out, like parking the car, getting out of the car and walking past the fence and everything like that. But because the fence is like so, it's this kind of like elaborate black, like wrought iron fence or whatever, you can see the person, but you can't tell if it's a man or a woman, and you can't tell what their face looks like. They're like, it looks like a white person, could be a Hispanic person, could be a man, could be a woman. They're really not entirely sure because the camera only took an image like every few seconds. And they said this person was walking, and every time the camera took a picture, their face was like behind a thing of the fence. So they couldn't see what the person looked like. They said all they know is that, and they've like sent the tape to like fucking NASA and the FBI and everything like that for enhancement. They said all they can tell is that the person is about 5'4" or 5'5".
He's a short guy.
That's or it could be a woman, but they don't really know. They said the interesting thing is that so they found the car. The car appeared to have been wiped down. All they found was like a single latent print and like a little bit of DNA fiber, but it didn't like lead to anything. So the weird thing though is that this person, because I kind of watched the little surveillance video, it doesn't look like the person was like in a rush or anything like that. They were, I mean, they even like parked in the spot and then like they kind of were crooked, so they kind of backed up and did it again, and they were just like walking like normal.
He was confident he got away with it.
This was about noon that he parked the car at
the
this
same
other
day?
apartment. No, it was a couple of days later.
A couple of days. See, he kept the car for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Weird.
I mean, or it might have been the same day because I think they didn't find the car until a couple of days later. So I think the video. So yeah, I think it was actually noon. She had vanished at some time like around 7 or 8 on the morning.
I don't think anything is a coincidence. He knew she was there. He had seen her. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think he knew what time she went to work.
It might have been somebody that was watching her, but yeah.
And he was like, "I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get her next time."
Yeah.
And then he walks up on her and points a gun at her and tells her to get in the car.
Yeah, because she must have come out of her apartment or her condo.
Yeah,
because it was locked, and
he told her some kind of story and got her to drive him somewhere that he knew about where it was more deserted.
Yeah.
Raped and killed her.
That's probably, I'm kind of
then
imagining that's
the
what
car.
happened. Yeah, so they went through the whole car and it looked like it had been wiped down. They also found like they were like clearly robbery was not the motive because like nothing of value was like taken from the car. However, some of her things are missing. All of her clothes and her new shoes that she had been wearing that day, which they knew because she had just bought them and told people about it, and they didn't find them in her apartment. Her cell phone is missing. Her iPod is missing. Her keys, her purse.
She was wearing them, though.
And her briefcase, yes. So those are all things that are missing.
But she was wearing them.
The cell phone,
right.
They have tried to ping it, but it's apparently off. So they haven't found it. Her bank account key card, or her ATM card, has not been used since she disappeared.
So he knew about all that.
Yeah, so maybe so.
Or he just wasn't interested in that, so he just left it with the body.
Yeah. So, as they would normally do, the first thing they do is start with, family members or, boyfriends, ex-boyfriends, things of that nature, which they usually do. Now, her boyfriend was one of the first people that they interviewed, but he had an airtight alibi. He was 4 hours away in Fort Lauderdale. He'd been at work, and they could prove that. She did have an ex-boyfriend who had been very upset about their breakup and had been, according to several other friends, had been trying to get back together with her. So they did interview him extensively and later ruled him out. Although, like I said, everybody had said they were trying to get back together.
I think he was random.
Yeah, so here's what the thing was, though. Like I said, she had been complaining, and she had complained to her family about this, that because she was either the only tenant in this building or there was like maybe only one other tenant, because it wasn't finished yet. So they were still like working on the other condos. So there was workers running around all the time, you know what I mean? Like working on the stuff and building stuff. And she said that a lot of them had like harassed her and stuff. Now, a lot of them were like speaking Spanish, but she spoke Spanish too. So she knew what they were saying. So a lot of those people were interviewed, but they didn't really seem to know anything.
They were just catcalling.
Yeah, they were catcalling her. But she said it happened so much that it was like starting to bother her, which is why she kind of like complained about it. Now, so they are not sure if something, went there, like some guy that worked there, like saw her and decided he was going to like kidnap her or rape her. Another thing that they started interviewing her coworkers. Now, apparently they took like a bunch of computers, like they took her computer and some other computers from the workplace. And one of the managers at her workplace had been trying to ask her out, like repeatedly, and she had turned him down because she said, look, I have a boyfriend, I don't date coworkers or whatever. Now, apparently, I'm not really sure, because like the Wikipedia page doesn't go into this, but I was watching like another true crime podcast about this, and it was another guy that was from Orlando, and he kind of knew a lot about the case. And he said that this coworker that was into her had like some kind of sketchy friends and like some kind of sketchy, I don't know if it was like drug dealing or it was something like that. Like, so he had some kind of like sketchy, like criminal kind of shit going on.
Oh man,
so
that just doesn't sound right to me.
But that's another possibility that they've been exploring. He was interviewed like a whole bunch of times. The cops have supposedly ruled him out. Even though, like I said, he had like been trying to ask her out like a bunch of times. I mean, that does happen. So
that sounds like normal life shit to me. I think the cops are reading too much into it.
Maybe.
If you ask me, this sounds like something where you have a guy who's kind of an unemployed type dude, maybe in between jobs, kind of lower income. He's young, and he just walks around a lot. Maybe he's going to that mall. Didn't you say there was a mall near that house?
Yeah, Mall at Millennia.
And he sees her.
I've been there.
And he sees her and remembers her.
Yeah.
He's got kind of a boring life and he decides he's going to abduct her and rape and kill her. And because he's a shitbag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he pulls that off and
then he moves on. It's possible that it could just be a random person.
It's kind of random. Yeah.
Or somebody that worked at the building like briefly, or somebody that was in the building for some other reason and like happened to see her.
Right.
And decided they were just going to abduct her one day. You know what I mean? So
it was somebody that had like motive and the time to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of working guys, Well, it's hard to say that because then you got dudes like BTK.
BTK, I was gonna say.
Yeah, he had a job and a whole family.
BTK's way back there on the shelf.
Yeah, BTK's back there going, well, you understand, X Factor,
Yeah.
Well,
His
You know
X
how it
Factor.
is. X Factor. He's trying to make it. X Factor is the factor of sex, sex. But that motherfucker's trying.
He's
a douche.
He's such a dork, man.
Yeah.
He's such a dork. Yeah. But yeah, he's a fucking dork. So, even though, like, now...
This just fucking...
I don't know if... Because it does really seem like the cops have kind of, like, not really been... Because I feel like they told the friends and family... This is what I heard, but that they told the friends and family that they'd been working on the shit, but then... When the family like hired a private investigator, the investigator was like, "Yeah, they haven't been doing jack shit on this case." Yeah. So they don't know anything. So this happened like back in 2006, and they still don't really know anything. Now, the manager where she worked, or the CEO or whatever, he actually offered a $1 million reward, with the stipulation that she be found alive, but no one ever claimed it. So she's still like, the FBI got involved in the case, everything like this. Now, what ended up happening was that the Kesse family hired a private investigator. Now, the private investigator, they came up with something that either the cops didn't, I don't know how they could have missed this, or they didn't follow up on it sufficiently. But apparently, even back in 2006, when she disappeared, a witness said that they had seen a guy dumping a rolled up carpet into Fisher Lake, which is about 30 miles from where she disappeared. And it looked like it had something in it. So he did report that. So the family followed up on that. They got people to search the fucking lake. They got cadaver dogs out there. And now the cadaver dogs did seem interested that there was something in there, but apparently they dragged the lake and they haven't found a body. However, at this stage, in the last update that I saw in this particular case was from March 6th, 2020. So at this point, the family is trying to either raise the funds or get permission or something like that to drag the lake again, because they think that might be where her body is.
Wow. And
because another thing too is that, significantly, like I said, this person said that they saw somebody dumping a rolled up carpet into this lake. The condo across the hall from her condo had a piece of carpet missing, and no one was living in it. It was being renovated, or it was still under construction. Yeah, so it looked like some carpet was missing from there. Weird. So somebody's thinking that they put her in the carpet and dumped her in. He
went out of his way. Usually, these guys have opportunity. Just jump them. They just dump them on the side of the road.
See, but that's what makes me think that it was maybe somebody that knew her, or somebody that... I mean, it could have been the coworker. It could have been the ex-boyfriend. He's
trying to hide the
body.
Yes,
they've been rolled out. Yes, they've been ruled out, but that doesn't mean that they didn't do it. It just seems like if you were going to...
Like he's trying to hide the body because there is a link between the two.
That's what I'm saying. If it was just some rando, like a guy that worked in the building or something, because she said she was worried about them catcalling her and stuff.
They usually don't worry about.
They wouldn't. I mean, normally you would think if they were just going to rape and kill her, they would just leave her somewhere in the building because it's mostly empty. Why would they go to the trouble to drive 30 miles if the witness was correct and that's what he saw? Why would they drive 30 miles with her body rolled up in a carpet?
Yeah,
if they didn't have any relationship.
Yeah, if there's no connection, they usually just let them be found. They would just
because they're they don't know that person, so it's harder to...
Yeah, letting the person be found is no skin off their nose, because there's no connection.
Yeah, I mean, if they took care to keep their DNA and shit like that off.
Right.
And there's no, they wouldn't have any reason, even if they didn't do that, they wouldn't really have any reason, unless they had a prior conviction where their DNA had been taken, then they wouldn't really have that much, because they would never be brought in as a suspect.
It's a weird missing person case, but there's a lot of a lot of the cases we've already talked about that were solved later were missing person cases from a long time ago. This guy may have killed others.
This might be a serial killer, although, like I said, the fact that
probably is. It sounds
the fact that if they do end up finding her body in Lake Fisher and it was wrapped in that carpet and stuff like that, I think that suggests that it was somebody that knew her. Maybe not somebody that was close. Maybe not the ex-boyfriend or anything like that. But maybe it was somebody that, obviously it was somebody that knew where she lived and shit like that. They didn't break into her house. She left the condo and locked the door, and it was like morning time. It wasn't like night or anything.
Nowadays, they usually find out.
Yeah.
Usually they eventually find the body. Usually they eventually find the killer. It might take a decade, but it's not like it was back a long time ago where you could make a person disappear and then, you know what I mean? And it just kind of, well, I don't know. Maybe it is still kind of like that.
As you know, I guess it depends.
Because we don't really know the true numbers.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think a lot of it depends too on, how much the family pushes to
find the person.
And how much they harass the police about investigating it and stuff like that. I mean, in this case, her parents have hired private investigators and they're just constantly bugging the police about like fucking doing shit about it.
Sometimes what happens is that they find a body.
Yeah.
But then that body isn't identified as that person that's missing. So for all we know, they have the body. They may have found the body in another state.
Yeah, that's possible.
A lot of it's missing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So she's not identified. They just,
That happens a lot too. And I wrote about like a lot of cases
Right.
like that in my book, and that's like, that happens like depressingly often.
Yeah.
If you go to like the fucking site where they have like all the unidentified bodies that they found,
it's unidentified bodies.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
It's horrifying how many there are.
Well,
that they have no idea who these people are, because like you said, if they were, say they were a runaway, or say they were kidnapped and taken across state lines like back in the 70s or something like that, and if they were taken all the way across the country and murdered and just left in a ditch someplace, it's like no one wouldn't make that connection as to like who's out, if they fucking vanished from Michigan and now they're in fucking, South Carolina, it's like no one's gonna hook that
like
shit up.
The person's families are old and dead. Are not really looking for them. There was never really any dental records done. It just makes
me really sad. Like every time that because I go to that, I go to that site a lot because, I write about a lot of those cases, but it just makes me sad how many there are. Yeah. Because this is a big fucking country and it's like,
they'll find bodies and they don't know who that is.
Yeah, and sometimes they never know.
Yeah.
It's like, it always kind of makes me happy when at least they identify somebody, because they do, they do keep working on them. It's like, obviously they don't have the manpower to have some people working on these cases full time.
I remember back in the 80s on Unsolved Mysteries, they found a damn body, I think it was somewhere out in New Mexico or something, found this dead body mummified inside a little trunk, or it might have been a wall locker or something like that, or, like a locker. And it was just some long-haired girl with little moccasins on, and they didn't know who that was. Just moccasin was little beads. Remember, like you had this in the 80s, little beads, long black hair and little moccasins. Yeah, they don't know who that was. And I was
might be. There was a case like that. I can't remember. That might be a different one, but I think that one of those women, I think that had moccasins on, I think that she was identified later. But I don't know if that was the same one or not, because like I said, there's so many.
I remember seeing a picture of her mummified face. Yeah, and then they tried to do a drawing to kind of reconstruct what she looked like, and this was back in the 80s, with all that from Unsolved Mysteries, man. Fucking love that show.
I do too.
But and they were like, who is this woman? You know what I mean? And last I had heard, they still hadn't identified who that was. Yeah. But maybe they have.
I should look that up. It was Arizona?
I think, man, it's hard. It's a long time ago. New Mexico, Arizona. It was in a desert
Like I said, there's so many. And it's like, it happens all the time, like I said. And it's usually women. They find a lot of like women.
I think they found her in a trunk.
Or teenagers.
I think they found her in a trunk in some kind of an abandoned building, and she had been dead for when they found her, she was dead 6-7 years. Yeah. Dried out like a mummy in there. Yeah. And they didn't know who it was.
Scary.
And that must have been around 87, I think, when that program, 86 when that came out. Weird.
I know, it's terrifying. Yeah. But so like I said, the FBI and everybody like that has got involved in this Jennifer Kesse case, and I'm kind of glad that somebody recommended this one, because this is local to our area, and like everywhere that they're talking about, like I know where all that stuff is. So, I hate to say, I'm sure that she's not alive. Yeah. But hopefully,
statistically, no,
they will at least find her at some point
and lay her to rest.
And hopefully, like I said, they can get another search of that lake, because it does kind of sound like that might be, because I don't know. Lead. I don't know if you guys know, but like Orlando is like, Central Florida in general, it's just there's fucking lakes everywhere. Yeah. It's just like lakes.
Would
there's
they
a town like not that far from here called Lando Lakes.
Why
There's
would
just
they
lakes everywhere?
Why would they dredge it? Why didn't they send a diver?
I don't know what they did. It's like, because the last thing that I read about it, they basically just said the lake was searched and they brought in cadaver dogs.
Right.
And that the cadaver dogs seem to indicate that there was something of interest in there,
right.
Which doesn't necessarily mean it's a body, but it's, that's suggestive. But as far as I know, they have not, the parents are trying to get another search done, maybe like a more stringent one. Maybe they didn't drag it. Maybe they just brought the cadaver dogs and, maybe they did have a diver, but he didn't see anything. I'm not sure. I mean, that's a fairly big lake. Right. It's not the biggest, not like Lake Eola or anything like that, but, which is downtown. But, it looked like on Google Maps, it looks like a pretty big lake. So I'm sure it's possible that the body could be in there. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of lakes in Orlando have bodies in them that they haven't found yet, as scary as
bodies
that
and guns.
Because, but like I said, there's fucking lakes everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going through Orlando, like, serial killers probably dump fucking bodies in there all the time. All right, so I got a couple more cases that I want to talk about, but since we're probably about at the halfway point, yes, we are a little bit past it, actually. We're going to take a break, refill drinks, find the kitty, do the usual stuff that
Kitty's
we do.
out in the back somewhere. I'll get her.
Yeah, well, we have to go find where she is, like I said.
Yeah.
So we will be back in just a few minutes.
What you got? What you got? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's your fun little Christmas pillow toy. You licking the fuzz? Oh boy. Yeah. It's Christmas in March for a baby cookie. Yes, it is. Why are you eating that? Don't eat that. Look, you have your little mint toy over there. She was playing with that earlier. She likes to rub it on her face. Beijing likes to do that too. I don't know why. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so fluffy. It's so fluffy. You're so weird, Pookie. Why are you so weird? You just want to lick all the fur. It's like a little bunny tail. Yeah. 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 Oh. Get worn out. Worn out from all the playing. And it jingles. I forgot about that. Oh, now she's gonna lick her butt. Okay, I'll give you some privacy.
You love true crime. I love true crime. And I've spent the last 3 years compiling a series of the most intriguing unsolved murders of the 20th century. It's called The Faceless Villain, and Volume 3 is available now. Featuring such fascinating cases as the Ketty murders, the Carrie Babies case, the Frog Boys, the Alcasar murders, and the Inokashira Park dismemberment incident, The Faceless Villain Volume 3 is an involving exploration of unsolved slayings spanning the years from 1980 to 1999. Pick up your copy in print or ebook formats on Amazon, or download the audiobook version from audible.com, and get ready for a chilling journey through modern crime history. All right, we're back for the second half of our Creepy Disappearances Part 3 show.
We're walking y'all through the apocalypse. Keeping y'all alive. As that virus is out there doing its work. It's going to be all right. Don't worry about it.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I said. You're getting like all... You were like picking on me because I wasn't getting all upset about it.
Well, we prepared. I prepared. I even got treatment in case I had. I got food, I got treatment, I got defense, I got everything. Yeah.
I'm not all that worried about it. I don't usually get colds or flus.
I got this shit. I got this.
Yeah, he has.
I got this. It's just another mission.
That's exactly what it is.
It is another mission, yeah.
So the next case we're going to talk about, this was another one that was recommended to us by a listener. This is the case of Alissa Turney. Now, this case, even they've never found this girl. I have very, very strong suspicions, as apparently many other people do as well, who is responsible for this shit. I'm going to say allegedly. Like, there's no proof, but I do kind of feel like I think I know what might have happened, or I think I know who might be responsible for her disappearance. Maybe not, but we'll get into that. Now, before we start talking about the case, I want to recommend, there's a woman that has a true crime channel. Her name is Stephanie Harlow, and she actually did like a 2-part series on this case, the Alissa Turney case. And she actually interviewed Sarah Turney, who is the sister of the victim and who has, been, looking for her sister all this time. Her sister disappeared in 2001. And so that's like really, really good. She had like a lot of kind of inside information, and it's really long. Like I think the first part was like an hour and 10 minutes, and like the second part was like an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. So it's like a really, really long series that she did on it. So I would recommend that as well if you want like a more in-depth kind of like look at it. So this happened in 2001 in Phoenix, Arizona. Now we got a 17-year-old girl named Alissa Turney. Now she was a junior in high school. She was living with her sister, whose name was Sarah, and they were living with their stepdad, whose name was Mike. Now apparently their mom had married Mike Turney, their stepdad, when they were both fairly young. Mike had 3 sons of his own, but at this point in 2001, they were like grown and they were like, living outside of the house or whatever. Now, the mother passed away, I believe, of cancer when Alissa was still fairly young. Before that time, apparently, it had been kind of like, I kind of heard their family like compared to like the Brady Bunch. Like we didn't say it was like, oh, we're step brothers and sisters. Everybody's just brothers and sisters. It was kind of one of those things like, with the classic family kind of all like coming together, and we don't say stepsisters and all that kind of stuff. So, but apparently after the mom died, I guess shit changed a little bit. Now, the interesting thing was that, so in this house, there was the stepdad and the 2 sisters. Now, I believe Sarah was a stepsister because I think that Mike was her dad, but she had a different mom. But she was around the same age as Alissa, either a year older or a year younger, I can't remember. But interestingly, after the mother died, Mike started treating the 2 sisters very, very differently. Like Sarah, he would kind of let her do pretty much whatever she wanted. She was like an older teenager. It's like, hey, you want to go to a party? Hey, you want to do this, that, and the other thing? You just, do whatever you want. He wasn't real like strict or anything like that. However, with Alissa, he seemed like to go super overboard with the shit. Now, he justified it by saying, oh, she's kind of like rebellious, which she was a little bit. Like she was kind of, this was 2001. She was like super into Marilyn Manson. She was like, smoking pot and whatever. Nothing super bad, like nothing that most people didn't do. But that's kind of how he was using it. He was very, very strict on her and like kept track of her and everything like that. And that's how he would justify it to Sarah and to Alissa by saying, oh, well, you're kind of more of like a bad kid or rebellious, so I have to like keep a closer eye on you and stuff like that. So him and Alissa didn't really get along. They were always kind of like fighting and stuff. So May 17th, 2001. Now this was the last day of school before it let out for the summer. So it was going to be like an early release day. I think they were getting out at like 12 or 1 or something like that. Now, Mike, the stepdad, he was supposed to come to the school at whatever the early release time was and pick up Sarah, but he didn't show up. So she goes to like her friend's house to wait for him. Now, he doesn't show up until like 4:30 in the afternoon, like at the friend's house. And he says, your sister, Alissa, is missing. So he hands her the phone and he's like, you try. I've tried to call her and I can't get in touch with her. She's not at the house. She's not anywhere. So the sister tries to call Alissa. There's no answer. Now, apparently, they go back to the house, and they go in Alyssa's bedroom, and they don't find her backpack, but they find all the stuff that was in her backpack. It's, like, scattered all over her bed. She has left her cell phone on her dresser. There is also a note next to the cell phone. The note reads, "Dad and Sarah, when you dropped me off at school today, I decided I really am going to California. Sarah, you said you really wanted me gone. Now you have it. Dad, I took $300 from you. That's why I saved my money."
In her handwriting?
It was in her handwriting, apparently. Because she had like that kind of teenage, like that big loopy handwriting.
Because you know how I'm getting suspicious already.
Well, yeah, you'll be even more suspicious by the time I finish talking about this shit. So yeah, so now Sarah is on record as saying she's like me and Alissa. She's like, we fought like siblings and everything like that. But she's like, I don't really like recall ever telling her seriously, like, I want you out of here. So she's like, we might have said something like that, but they're teenagers and they're sisters. Like, siblings say shit like that to each other all the time. Now, it should be noted that Alissa did have an aunt that lived in California, and she had mentioned going to California to live with this aunt because she wasn't getting along with her stepdad. So this wasn't too crazy. Now, that same night that she disappeared, Mike Turney, who apparently was an ex-cop, I don't think he was not a cop at this point, but I think he had been a cop in the past. He actually did call the police, and he reported that Alissa was a runaway, and he told them about the note and everything like that. So the cops kind of like, they opened a case, but they didn't really do much about it because,
runaway?
Yeah, they thought, well, runaway, it's like, yes, she had talked about going to live with an aunt in California. Oh, well, that's where she went. She was 17 years old. So they didn't ignore it.
Very low priority.
Yeah, but it was a low priority. Yeah. Because, they thought, well, that's where she went. She has family out there.
They typically come
back.
Right,
a lot of them do. That's true.
And a 17-year-old girl's only, most of the time, months away from being legally fucking...
Yeah.
Big enough in her britches to do whatever the fuck she wants to do anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of times, they're 6 months away from emancipation.
Yeah.
And then in certain states, I think emancipation can happen a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. In some states, I think a 16-year-old can become emancipated if they do the right things for the court.
Yeah.
And if they can demonstrate the right things.
Yeah.
Depends.
I think most states have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do have to go to court. And...
Yeah, you got to go to court. I mean, there are some 16-year-olds that can demonstrate, my parents are fucked up.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with them.
And
I got to get out of here.
emancipated. I have to be.
I can kind of understand it sometimes.
Which, if you were 16 years old and your parents were
fucking druggies.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
whatever.
obviously you would want to go and live on your own.
Right.
If you could prove you could live on your own, I don't really have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's girls and that they can prove that they have a boyfriend who's stable. I think that's usually what happens.
Yeah, it's like I have a place to stay. We have money, stuff like that.
Which sounds weird. That sounds weird to a modern person. You're talking about all this Me Too shit and all this underage stuff. The United States has a lot of different states. Some of these have age of consents that are like Mississippi. Last I heard, the age of consent was 15.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The last I heard
and like
about
I said,
it
would depend. And we've talked about this on the show before, but it would depend on how much older the boyfriend was.
Right.
It's like if you have if she's 16 and some boyfriend's like 40 years old.
There's statutory stuff. But here's another thing: is that's only in certain states. Mm-hmm. I don't think Mississippi, Alabama, or Louisiana has statutory stuff.
I don't know about that, but
I don't think so.
I'd have to check.
As long as I think there's a certain age of consent, and then that's it. But it's shit that's kind of reasonable. 17, 16, 17, usually like 16, 17. Yeah. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. But that doesn't. But they can't they can't dance nude or they can't engage in pornography until they hit 18.
Right.
I remember Louisiana because back when I was in the Louisiana goth scene, shit blew me away. But in Louisiana, a girl could dance nude at 17.
Yeah.
But she couldn't engage in pornography.
Right.
And I think when I was up in Michigan, Canada had strip clubs, I think, where the girls could, at least back in the 80s, could dance nude at like 16. But I think it was only topless.
Yeah.
So, that was old laws, though. I don't know if they're still standing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago now when you look back on it. I mean, shit, we're fucking 50 now. But that was only like 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. But I guarantee you go back and you go look at Mississippi's laws, they haven't changed.
They probably haven't.
They haven't changed in Mississippi, I tell you, because they still have fucking dry counties.
We have that here, too.
Yeah, where there's counties that, if you guys don't know, I know we have foreigners here, there were certain counties in Mississippi where you could not
can't
sell
buy alcohol.
Distilled alcohol.
Yeah.
You could sell beer.
You got to drive to the next county to get them.
Yeah, you could, and then in those same ones, you couldn't sell pornography. So there were no magazines or anything like that. Which was kind of a weird gray area because they had pornographic channels on your damn cable, and you're in that county. You know what I mean? It didn't make sense even back then.
I think, and I'm not sure if this is the same way, but I remember several years ago, I know there were certain either counties in Alabama or the entire state of Alabama where you weren't allowed to sell like sex toys, dildos and stuff.
It's almost all of Mississippi was like that. And see, that's the thing that like a lot of people might be fucking wigged out. Me spending so much time in Mississippi, having roots in Mississippi, it's a weirdest fucking thing. States that have all this anti-pornography, anti-fucking sex toys, anti-fucking alcohol had the lowest age of consents, and the fucking you could marry a girl at like 14.
Yeah, it's totally backwards.
It's not backwards from the point of view of who's writing these laws. You're talking about Sharia law. It's like Islam.
Yeah.
It's encouraging you to get married and to have kids as young as
like,
fucking
hey, are
possible.
You into that 12-year-old?
Yeah, it is. This is it's
you can bang her if you marry her.
It was weird.
It's so fucked up.
It was weird Christian.
Yeah, I know.
Denominations that you could really kind of call cults.
Yeah. Between
Southern Baptists and Presbyterians and fucking all kinds of weird, I'm going off track.
Yeah, you are.
I'm going off track. Sometimes some people might think that shit's fucking hilarious, though. It's just the more country you get, it is kind of weird because their interpretation of morality is very different.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So the cops, like I said, they did start a file, but because the dad said, she had talked about running away, and they knew that she had family in California, that she'd left this note that was apparently in her handwriting that's where she had gone, they didn't put it on the front burner or anything like that. Now, a week after she left, Mike told the police that he had received a phone call from Alissa and that she had said that he was the reason that she had left because they weren't getting along. And she said, yes, I'm in California and I'm never coming back. Now, the contents of this phone call are only from Mike Turney's say-so. He did provide the police with phone records showing that there was an incoming call from California at the time that he said that it happened, but I don't think they know who the call came from, or they don't know the contents of that phone call. So what was said on the phone and who it was from is kind of only from his point of view. So a few years go by. Mike is starting to tell everybody in the family, he's like, look, I don't think she's in California anymore now. I think something really bad happened to her. The cops aren't doing anything. I think maybe she got murdered. He started going out to California and putting around flyers and stuff like that, looking at her, looking for her, she was a missing person, or saying he was looking for her anyway. So 5 years go by. In 2006, and this is 5 years after she's disappeared, there's this guy called Thomas Heimer. Now, he was in prison in Florida, and he was serving time for another murder. Now, he had sent police a letter in which he confessed to killing Alissa Turney. Now, the cops pretty much, when they started questioning him, they knew that he was just making it up. Like a lot of the details didn't
match up.
jibe and stuff like that. However, because they reopened the investigation into her disappearance, they started noticing some interesting things about Alissa's family life. They noticed that even though supposedly she had run off to California to stay with an aunt, that aunt had no idea where she was. No other person in the family or no other friends of hers had heard from her since. She had $1,800 in a bank account that was not touched. Her social security card had not been used, which means that she had not registered for any classes. She had not gotten a job or anything like that.
She died.
Yeah. So nobody knew where she was, right? Even the aunt that she was supposed to go live with is like, yeah, she never came here. I never heard from her. None of her friends ever heard from her.
She must have run away and somebody nabbed her.
I don't think that's what happened.
No? Okay.
I'll get into that.
Okay.
Now, when they started looking further into the case, they realized that what had ended up happening, like I said, on the day that she disappeared, it was the last day of school before summer break. She was a junior. So it was only half day. They were getting out beforehand. However, the police discovered that Mike, her stepdad, had picked her up even earlier than that, like at 10:30 in the morning or something like that. Or either that or she hadn't even gone to school that day. One of those two things. Now, apparently he had picked her up before lunch and he said, oh, I was going to take her to lunch. Why he would pick her up that early when it was already an early release day, they're not really sure. And he was supposed to pick up Ciarra later on that day, but he didn't pick her up, like I said. So that seemed a little weird too. Now, Alissa had a boyfriend named John. Now, the day that she disappeared, she had told him, because there was like an end of year party going on later that night, and she had told John, yeah, I'm going to be at the party later on. I'll see you later. And all of her other friends said that she had told them that she would be at the party and that she would see them. Now, Mike said that he had picked her up early that day, like earlier than the already early release time, that they had gone to get lunch, and that then they had gone back to the house and they had gotten into an argument and she had taken off. That was his story. Now, when they started looking into Mike's background, they found some very interesting things. One thing that they discovered was that he was super paranoid. His entire house was covered with cameras, inside and outside. Some of them were hidden. He recorded every single phone call going into and coming out of the house, and had done for many, many years. There was a hidden camera in like a vent in the living room. And apparently he had one time like recorded Alissa had been like in the living room like making out with a boy or something like from her school. And he had recorded that like she didn't know. And I guess he still had it. Like he had like all these videotapes and stuff.
Now, how explicit did it get?
Well, they were just making out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like sex or anything.
Okay. So,
but they were just making out.
Couldn't get him on that. Right.
So they asked, since the whole fucking house was apparently under surveillance, both the phones and the cameras and everything like that,
this
like
is a red flag
at all times.
This is a red flag
big
already.
time. Big
right,
time.
Yeah.
So the cops were like, oh, well, then you must have videotape of the day that Alissa disappeared.
Yeah, no videotape.
Mike says to them, oh, well, I've already watched those tapes and there's nothing on there that you guys would need to see.
They're like, where is it? And he goes like, I don't have it. How much you want to bet?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. And the cops also said, oh, well, you record all the phone calls, right? Like going in and out. He's like, yeah, generally it was automatic. And the sister said this like in an interview that I was watching with her.
He sounds voyeuristic to me already.
He's like I said, all of this is fucking allegedly, like don't sue me.
Just sounds
but I'm just saying. But so they asked him, so they said, so you record all the phone calls and stuff, and it was automatic. Like Sarah Turney, the sister, she actually said for as long as she could remember, it's like as soon as the phone picked up, it started recording. You know what I mean? It was like an automatic.
So everybody
thing.
knew in that.
So so they all knew that and like everything.
I wouldn't tolerate that.
So no, me either. Who the fuck would do that? I mean, they were still kids,
Yeah,
but
I'd say,
that's
what's wrong,
some
what's wrong
crazy
with-
shit. Yeah, some
What's
crazy
wrong
shit.
with you, man?
So the cops were like, oh, well, okay, since you record all the phone calls, give us the tapes from that day, and maybe we'll get some insight into where your daughter went. And he's like, oh, well, it was turned off that day.
This motherfucker's suspicious.
The sister says, like I said, she's like, you didn't turn it off. It was automatic. It's like
Right.
anytime you picked up the phone, it would automatically start recording.
I wonder how much he spent on this technology. To do
So
this.
at this point, because there was some suspicious, very sketchy shit going on, obviously, so the police had probable cause. So they went and searched the house. And listen to this shit. So they search the house and they find 26 homemade pipe bombs and a whole bunch of guns, like a whole arsenal of guns, and a 90-page manifesto that this guy has written. Apparently, this guy had been like in some kind of like he was an electrician, and I guess he'd been in a union, and he somehow got this weird idea that he was a whistleblower and that people in the union were trying to kill him.
He's fucking crazy.
Yeah, paranoid schizophrenia
He's
is the
fucking
words, or are the words that come to mind.
Yeah.
So for many years, and like the sister said this too, she's like, for many years, it's like he wouldn't even go to the fucking mailbox on the driveway without being armed.
Thought
They're
he was
like,
gonna come by and get him.
so he thought that people from this union were out to kill him, and they interviewed like people from this union, like, yeah, we just thought he was like a crazy motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we didn't.
Right.
He's like, he wasn't a
Nothing to
whistleblower.
it.
It's like, there's nothing to it.
Right.
And he had drawn up a whole entire plan. He had all these bombs. He was going to drive this van. He had it all like sketched out and written out and everything. He was going to go to this place like where the union met and everything like that. And he was going to blow it up is what he was going to do. That was like the plan. So his story was that because he was, he had whistleblown on these people in this union or whatever, that they had taken Alissa and killed her as revenge. That was his story.
He's fucking crazy.
Yeah, clearly.
He's fucking crazy.
But like I said,
Sue me if you
allegedly,
want.
because
Sue
he's
me-
out now. He's out now.
Sue me if you want to. I'm gonna say, dude, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Say what I
so
wanted.
when they went through his house too, like other than finding all these pipe bombs and like shit like that, they found all the videotapes. They found the videotapes of like Alissa making out with a boy on the couch. They found what appeared to be a snuff film, like of a woman getting tortured and murdered, like an unidentified murder. It appeared to be a snuff film. I'm not entirely sure if it actually was. But yeah, but they didn't find anything from the day that Alissa went missing. Now, the more that the police investigated, they also discovered that Alissa had not only told a bunch of her friends, as well as like either a teacher or a counselor at school, and they found several letters that were written by her in which she alleged that Mike had been molesting her since she was a kid. Now
It's all starting to make
creepy
sense
thing
now.
about this is that apparently when she was younger, Mike had made her sign contracts that, and they're like, some of it was like normal shit, like it's not normal to make your kid sign a contract, but at least normal, it's like, just to be home by this certain time or whatever. But there was one stipulation in there that kind of like raised everyone's eyebrows, was that, she had to sign this thing that said, Mike, my stepdad has never molested me or anything like that. Child Protective Services also apparently had a record of him calling CPS and saying, if my daughter Alissa calls and says that I molested her, she's lying, don't believe her, because we just had a big fight and she wants to do something like to get me in trouble. So they apparently had that on file as well. So I kind of feel like, so because of all the shit that they found, like all the bombs and all the shit that they found in his house,
This dude's not credible.
he ended up spending 10 years in prison. They put him in prison for 10 years.
That's a long time,
He's
yeah.
out now.
All
Like
right.
he just recently got out. But it's weird because, so I was listening to this interview with Ciarra, the sister, and she said, I grew up with him. He's my dad and stuff like that. She's like, at first I was trying to like deny, but she's like, now she really thinks that the dad killed her sister.
Yeah.
But she's like, this is this whole like thing now because he has 3 other sons that were grown at the time that Alissa disappeared. And they do not believe that he did anything. So it's like this big like family rift. It's like this really messed up. And there's even, if you go and watch that video that I talked about earlier, like this 2-part thing, she had like, the sister went to meet with the dad after he got out of prison, and she like recorded the conversation, and it's super, super awkward because the dad knows that she thinks that he did something to Alissa.
So let's straighten this out. The step kids think that he did it, but the blood kids think that he didn't.
Yeah. No, I think Ciarra is actually his daughter.
It's actually a blood relative. Okay.
I think.
Okay.
If I'm representing, but yeah, the sons, the older sons, they don't think he did anything. But
this shit ain't jiving to me. I mean,
that's what I mean. It just seems really alarming. One, that he was apparently planning essentially a terrorist attack. Yeah. I mean, he had it all written down. He had the bombs made. They found the bombs in his house.
Yeah.
He had a whole arsenal. He had like the whole plans laid out, like the van he was going to rent. He had like where he was going to park it. He had like all this shit right now. It was 90 pages.
Damn.
He had it all figured out. And the fact that he had planned that, and the fact that even going back when police investigated, they found out that Alissa had been trying to tell people that he was molesting her for years, and no one had really done anything about it. I kind of feel like, I don't know if he actually, like I said, allegedly, I don't know if he was like planning to kill her that day or if it just kind of happened.
Maybe she said she was going to rat him out.
That's kind of what I'm suspecting. It's like, I'm not really, obviously I'm not there. It's like, yes, it could happen that she ran away and got like killed by somebody else, but
ratting somebody out isn't really kind of like the proper way to characterize that. It's just telling the truth. Maybe she's going to tell the truth.
Yeah, ratting somebody out implies
that's very different. But maybe
that's
she was
different.
She was going to go to the authorities.
Yeah.
That's what was going to happen.
Well, that might have been what happened. Maybe they did have a fight, and she said, hey, I'm going to go tell the cops, like, what you've been doing.
Right.
And so he just decided to take care of the problem. So, now it should be noted that Alissa Turney, the sister, she has a full-time job, but she also, all of the rest of her free time, she spends it, she has a whole podcast about it. She produces a podcast about the show, about the case. She has, like, a Facebook group. She has, like, all that kind of stuff because she is, like, determined, because she had to come around to the fact that her dad might have done something to her sister.
Right.
Because she said she didn't believe it at first. But now she does, and so she is just like tirelessly working
they'll get down to
find her and like figure out. So like I said,
they never found the body.
No, they have not found the body. And he will not like say anything. He just says, "Oh, well," he says that 2 guys from the union kidnapped her and killed her, and he says that he killed them. But both of them are dead, but they both died of natural causes, like at totally different times.
Yeah.
So he's obvious.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So I think that dude has like some paranoid schizophrenia issues, clearly, because he's like inventing all these conspiracies about himself.
Well, that kind of covers his tracks, though.
Yeah. So I definitely feel
somebody
like
else did the homicide.
in this case that there is probably enough reason to probably allegedly believe. I'm not really sure. He's like he's older. He's like pretty grizzled looking. But yeah,
60s, 70s.
He looked like he was in his 60s. Yeah. Like I said, he was in prison for 10 years for that shit that they found in his house.
Yeah.
Because he was clearly planning it like a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
He had it all figured out. But that it's pretty scary that he's like running around loose now. So I think that's kind of why Ciarra is like pushing so hard, like to get the investigation
they'll probably
going and get the investigation reopened and get the body found or something, because this dude seems kind of dangerous.
I don't know.
Just
I was going to say they'll probably figure it out, but then what I think about it now, they probably wouldn't, because he's hidden the body pretty well. He's covered his own tracks. They'd have got him already. He'll die. He'll probably go to the grave with the secret.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. probably what happened.
Because I'm sure, like, everybody would like to know, like, what happened to her? Where did she go?
Yeah.
It's like, what
Killed her
the
and
fuck did they
buried
do
her
with
somewhere.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is Arizona, so he could have, like, taken her out to the desert someplace.
Yeah.
Because she did say, like, she told, like, friends, and I think she told her boyfriend, too, that the first time that he tried to molest her, he, like, drove her out into the desert and then was, like, trying to, like, fucking rape her in the car and stuff. So.
And she's a blood relative.
Allegedly.
Damn.
Yeah, so. No, that's her stepdad.
Stepdad,
That's her stepdad.
okay.
Her mom died.
Okay.
Now, her mom died when she was young, so she'd been living with this guy for, like, a long time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So how old are we talking about? 13,
What,
14? When this happened? When he was molesting her?
Well, she was 17 when she disappeared, but
Okay.
I believe the molestation allegedly had been going on for several years at least. Like,
Okay.
since the mom died.
All right.
So, yeah, that's
He
a
covered
fucking,
his tracks.
Yeah,
He'll
it's a fucking special ass
Yeah.
case, isn't it? God damn it.
He won't tell.
No, he probably won't.
No.
And from his tone of voice, like in the recording, like I said, because I listened to the conversation that Sarah had with him after he got out of prison, and it really does seem like it might be a case where he's so mentally ill that he's kind of like justified it to himself in his mind or convinced himself that he didn't really do anything wrong. Because it does kind of sound like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes if you're crazy enough, you can do that.
It's all right there, if you ask me. I mean, if you tell me this case, I say, well, that's the main suspect, and I'm just gonna say, that dude probably did that.
I think everybody.
And if he did, then that means he's not gonna say anything.
And I mean,
And if they haven't arrested him yet, then that means they don't have the evidence they need for the conviction.
Yeah.
Which tells me that he probably got away with it.
I mean, seriously, like the first comment, like
But he doesn't have to worry about us. He's got to worry about his daughter, because his daughter fucking is if anyone can crack the case,
yeah,
it'd be her.
She is like tirelessly. Like I said, she's got a full-time job, but she has like a second full-time job, and all she
just
does
fucking with him, right?
Is all she does is like run a Facebook group. She runs a podcast. She just like tries to like. She's like, she calls investigators every day to like ask them like what's going on and stuff, and it just seems like. But yeah, like the first when I watched like the Stephanie Harlow like the 2-part series that she did about it, where she interviewed Sarah and everything, and I think the first comment like for that YouTube video is like, I'm not saying the stepdad did it, but the stepdad did it, and I'm like, yeah, allegedly.
They'll just never be
I'm
able
gonna
to
have
prove
to
it,
agree with you on that, because he seems like a crazy person.
I don't think they'll never be able to prove it.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'm just kind of hoping they find something.
He'll have to confess to it.
No,
or to do something
maybe.
to fucking uncover it. Right.
Yeah. Now, speaking of fucked up families, here is yet another case that was recommended to us by a listener. Now, this is very, very recent. I mean, this is still ongoing. Arrests have been made like as recently as a few weeks ago. This is a fucking crazy story, so forgive me if it's because it's kind of complicated. Like, a lot of shit happened in this. So, basically, it all started with the disappearance of 2 half-siblings. This would be Joshua J.J. Vallow, who was 7 years old, and his half-sister Tylee Ryan, who was 17. Now, they apparently vanished from a place called Rexburg, Idaho. Now, they were not reported missing significantly by their parents, but by extended relatives. So they were reported missing in November of 2019. So, when these 2 kids were reported missing and police started looking into it, all kind of crazy shit about this family started coming to the fore. So let's kind of go back in time a little bit, 10 months prior.
No, wait a minute. Hold on one second.
What
state was this again?
Idaho.
Idaho. Okay.
Idaho, yeah. This is Rexburg, Idaho.
Okay.
So let's go back 10 months to when the mother of Joshua Vallow, she's actually, she's the stepmother to the younger boy, JJ, and she's the biological mother of Tylee Ryan. So this is like another extended family thing where she was, she had an older daughter and then she married somebody else that had a kid and blah, blah, blah. So she's like their stepmom. So Lori Vallow is the mom's name. She's 46 years old. Now, 10 months before the disappearance of these 2 children, her husband at the time, whose name was Charles, filed for divorce. Now, apparently, the records, now this happened in Arizona, in the divorce proceedings, he said that he was afraid for his life from her. Like, he got, like, an order of protection against her and everything like that. Now, he was very concerned that Joshua, who is his biological son, who has autism, he was very concerned that the mom was not going to take care of him properly, was not going to, like, do all the things that needed to be done to keep him, like, healthy and happy or whatever. He was also very concerned about Tylee, but there wasn't much he could do about that because that was not his biological daughter. It was only his stepdaughter. But there are things in the divorce proceedings where he was, like, trying to get them to look into the case and everything like that. And he also said that he wanted, essentially, I guess it was like order of protection would be kind of like a restraining order, I would imagine, against his ex-wife because he thought that she was a danger to him and probably also a danger to the children. So apparently one of the things that he kind of brought into evidence in these, divorce filings was that she... Okay, so she had met this guy while these two were still married named Chad Daybell. And Chad Daybell, he had written like a bunch of what they call religion-themed fiction. I guess maybe it was like a Left Behind. I kind of feel like it's probably like a Left Behind apocalyptic rapture type shit. Because apparently she got sucked into some weird apocalyptic Christian cult. Where she apparently claimed that she was, quote, a god assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000, which, like I said, it's some rapture shit right there.
Oh, no, I'm speaking the language. I understand
at Christ's second coming, which was supposed to, why did everything go blurry? It went blurry.
No,
oh, okay.
There we go.
So this Christ's second coming is supposed to be July 2020.
Okay.
And so,
not far from
mark your calendar, everybody. Yeah. So she's like supposed to be like all up in that.
Yeah.
And she apparently told him, Charles, her husband at the time, who was divorcing her at this point, that, well, I don't really care about the family anymore because I have, quote, a more important mission to carry out. She had to get ready for Christ coming back in July.
Now, was she associated with some kind of church?
Yeah, but this is like weird cult. It's called Preparing a People.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
it's getting ready. Yeah,
and like I said, I
Religious
don't know.
preppers.
Like when he married her, I don't know if she was involved in it then. But after meeting this guy Chad Daybell, who was like a writer, and I guess she got into it through him. That's kind of what like what I'm getting from like all the news reports. So yeah, there was that whole thing going on. So Charles was getting very concerned that she was maybe like kind of losing her mind and she had kind of got sucked into this cult and she was like, kind of going off the deep end a little bit. Now it should be noted that this religious group has tried to distance themselves from this whole case as they would. On their website, they're saying it's like, we don't know what they believe, but we're just kind of like backing away slowly.
Well, maybe
from that kind of shit.
Maybe she took matters into her own
hands. But I don't know if it's just kind of like PR because they don't want to be associated with this woman because she kind of got into trouble very recently. So that's kind of thing. But they do apparently believe that Christ is second coming and they're trying to get everybody ready for the rapture and everything.
Yeah, let me talk about this for 1 second.
Okay.
In case you guys don't know my background, you know what I mean? I came up in a fairly religious family, especially like my grandparents. Not so much my parents, but my grandparents. And then, Christian Military Academy. I like Christianity. I never really took it seriously. Not past the age of 14 or 15.
Yeah.
I always liked apocalyptic shit. And the stories and the tale, you know what I mean? It's like in the movies and stories about it.
Well,
it's very exciting.
I don't think it's really going to happen, but yeah.
All right, it's exciting. It's a good way, it's a cool prophecy. You kind of see modern things and things that are happening at any one time. You can say, well, man, it's kind of like in the Book of Revelations, And Until I started to study, Dr. Robert M. Price. We've had him on the show before. And heard his version of what the apocalypse is about. In other words, Revelations. That particular book of the Bible is very sketchy. And it's taken out of context a lot.
Somebody was on some shrooms when they wrote that shit.
Yeah, all right. Everything that they talk about the beast rising up out of the sea and the Antichrist and the big thing, the big battle at Armageddon, that was something that already has happened or supposedly already happened. All right, that's not something from our future. That was from the future.
Yeah, that was shit that was going on at the time.
Yeah, it was going on
and they
at
were
the
just
time.
writing about it poetically.
And I just want to kind of encourage anyone who's into apocalyptic literature to go ahead and consult the Bible Geek, Dr. Robert M. Price.
He's
his
rad,
stuff
seriously.
It's really cool. And listen to his readings of all this stuff, and it's on YouTube. When you read it in the original Roman, actually I think that shit was written in the what do they call it? The Roman Vulgate, the Vulgar Roman. What was it called?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No.
I don't remember. Okay, I think it was called the Vulgate. I think is what it was called. It makes a lot more sense in the original language. It's not talking about our future. It's talking about somebody's future, but we're, from the point of view of like fucking 15 AD. And there's a lot of shit that's very sketchy in there. And it's just, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Well, obviously.
And I say this as somebody who appreciates Christianity. If you're into that, you're slightly misguided.
Well, I mean, how many times since Christianity took a foothold thousands of years ago, Second Coming of Christ, how many predictions about that have been made?
Right.
Hundreds, at least.
Yeah, hundreds. It is literature. That's all it is. It's literature. And
that's how it should be approached. There's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just literature.
It's just don't take it like it's true, because it's not. It's just a story.
It's a story. A lot of colorful wordings in it, and there's a lot of stuff that you can use to appreciate today, like when you say that this is the apocalypse. You know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Even in Islam, it translates into Islam because they have some of that too.
Well, yeah, it's similar. It's an offshoot. So.
It's an offshoot. You know what I mean? Kind of like the same way with Islam is very kind of a good analogy would be like the Mormons. The Mormons and Islam is kind of similar in a certain ways. It's a Christian reboot.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. Don't take that shit too seriously, but do take it. Take it as a piece of Western tradition and Christian traditions. You know what I mean? It's good literature. It's storytelling.
Well, like I said, I've always been interested in religion in the sense that I'm interested in what it says about the people that wrote it and the people that believed in it at the time that it was written.
Yeah.
I find that very fascinating.
And the Lamb opens the seventh seal. And all that kind
of shit. And
all
the symbolism and stuff. That's fascinating.
Yeah, you're like, you know what I mean? You can use that in your everyday life to kind of help you kind of like put imagery into things. That's what it is. The same way you do that with Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But
I kind of see it the same as that.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
It's Christian literature.
Yeah.
And just take it for that. Don't fucking get wrapped up in this. The world is not going to end in that way. If it does, you can say, it's kind of like something out of the Old Testament. But the Old Testament, the New Testament, but Revelations didn't make that shit happen. And who am I to say what God does? But I'm just saying that it's not as portrayed in Christian tradition. But go ahead.
So this group, like I said, preparing a people. Now Chad Daybell, who was apparently the one that got her into this group, he had actually spoken at some of their events. Like I said, this group is trying. There's like, hey, we're not a cult. We're just like, you don't have to come here. We're not like recruited. I don't know if that's true or not because Scientology says that too, and they are definitely a cult. Don't sue me. But
no, Scientology.
But you know what I mean.
Any small religion is a cult.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, we just have a website. We give like lectures. You can come and watch the shit or not. They make no secret about the fact that they are trying to prepare people for the rapture and the second coming, and that's what they're doing.
Which is so funny because the rapture is not in Revelation. Somebody's reading that into there. That is not in there.
So they kind of got all into that now. So all this shit was going on, and like I said, Charles had filed for divorce from his wife Lori and said she was a danger and stuff like that. However, interestingly, in March of 2019, he suddenly dropped the divorce proceedings. 6 months later, he got murdered. By guess who? Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shot and killed him. Now, Alex Cox did not get in trouble because apparently it was self-defense, or so they say. This is a fucked up family, you guys. Just like, I haven't even got to the bottom of this yet. So this happened in July of 2019. This happened in Chandler, Arizona. Apparently, Charles Vallow has gone to his wife's house. At about 8:30 in the morning. Him and the brother, Alex, get into an argument. I'm not sure about what. Because at this point, Charles and Lori had been separated, so they were not living in the same house anymore. So he goes to the wife's house. He gets into an argument with the brother. Now, Alex comes in, or he gets into an argument with the wife, and then the brother comes in, and then they all start fighting, and then they get in a physical fight. Charles apparently hit Alex in the head with a baseball bat.
Damn.
And then Alex shot Charles twice in the chest and killed him. Now, they did not file any charges against Lori's brother Alex because, like I said, it was self-defense because I guess he had been hit in the head with a baseball bat, so he was just defending himself and everything like that. So they're keeping the case open because at this stage, once the children went missing later on, this is kind of like part of the whole like investigation. But at the time, they just thought, oh, well, they got in a fight and he hit him with the bat, so he shot him, fair play, I guess.
Well, that's somebody trying to kill you.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So they didn't think anything of it at the time. Now listen to this shit. 6 months after that, December 11th, 2019, Alex Cox, the brother, was found unresponsive in his house in Gilbert, Arizona, and later pronounced dead. They are apparently going to do an autopsy or haven't done an autopsy. They don't know. They said that his death is suspicious, but they're not sure how it was engineered, or they're not releasing that to the public.
We're talking about...
They do suspect that they said it's too early to know if foul play is involved, but they are doing an autopsy and they are keeping that possibility open.
So they must be saying either poisoning or some kind of drug overdose is probably what they're saying.
Yeah. So as far as I know, because like I said, I tried to get like the most recent like updates on this. And as far as I know, they're still like either working on the autopsy or they haven't finished it yet or whatever. But they are saying they're not ruling out that his death might be a homicide. Now, interestingly, in between, in those 6 months between when Charles Vallow got shot and when Alex Cox turned up dead in his house of an undisclosed or undetermined malady, Chad Daybell, who was the guy that got Lori Vallow into the weird Christian cult or whatever it was, his wife died from what at the time they thought was natural circumstances, but now they're not so sure. Her name was Tammy, and she died October 19th, 2019. But because after the kids went missing, and after Lori Vallow, I told you this was confusing, ran off with Chad Daybell, like they ran off together, like to Hawaii or something like that. So they went and exhumed his ex-wife's corpse because they suspect now that her death wasn't natural, that maybe she was poisoned, right? So this is 3 dead people.
Right.
And 2 missing children.
It's a wild-ass family.
In one fucking family.
Yeah.
I told you, this is some fucked up shit. And I told you it's like confusing. Now, they later found out So like I said, they've exhumed her body, I believe in December, but they haven't determined like whether it was natural causes or whether she was poisoned or whatever. They found out that Chad Daybell had collected more than $400,000 in life insurance after his wife Tammy died. Now, interestingly, about the same time that Tammy turned up dead, Lori Vallow, the mom of the kids that went missing, and Chad Daybell, the guy that had got her into the cult, they started saying that Lori's daughter, I'm assuming this is Tylee, the 17-year-old, had died a year earlier, which was weird because people still knew where she was at this point. She didn't go missing until like a month later. Now, November 2019, the extended family of the Vallows started to become suspicious because none of them had been able to contact either Tylee, who was 17, or Joshua, or JJ, who was 7. Like, some of the other family members, like grandma and stuff like that, had been like trying to call him and couldn't get any bead on like where he was or what was going on with them. So they started to get suspicious, and they several of them like asked for like a welfare check, because you know how you can like have the cops like go check on somebody if you think somebody's in danger. So this happened in I believe in September or November of 2019. So they said, hey, can you go like check out this house in Rexburg where Lori had supposedly been living with the children and see if they're there, because we can't get in touch with either one of them. November 26th, 2019, the cops go to the Rexburg house. Now, Lori Vallow is there and Chad Daybell is there because they're apparently dating at this point. They both said, now Tylee was not there, the 17-year-old. They said that JJ was staying with a family friend in Arizona. However, when the police followed up on this the next day, they found out that Joshua was not with this family friend in Arizona, and that friend didn't have any idea what the two of them were talking about. So the next day, the cops turn up at this house with search warrants. When they turn up at the house, they find that Lori and Chad have both fucked off. The house is abandoned, essentially. Like, all their shit is gone.
They must have known they were coming.
They left. So on December 20th, police released information to the public saying that these children are missing and they are believed in danger, and, saying all the stuff about the parents and everything like that. Now, the mother, Lori, has repeatedly refused to help out in the investigation and says that she does not know where they are, or either says that or says that they're staying with friends or whatever. Now, they also found later on, they found that either Lori or Chad had rented one of those like storage unit things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, which always reminds me of Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
They didn't find any bodies in there or anything. But when they opened it, they did find like a bunch of both kids' stuff, like their bikes, their scooters. There was like a bunch of pictures of them. There was like a bunch of their stuff, like some of their clothing and stuff like that, was in this storage.
Why do you store kids' stuff?
That's what I mean.
Because
so
they outgrow it so
they
quickly.
thought that was very weird that like all of this stuff was in there.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was no bodies or anything like that, but
within a few years,
a bunch of their stuff was in there, so
Yeah,
they thought that was kind of strange.
Within a few short years, they've outgrown all that shit. So why do you store it?
Yeah, that's again, that seemed very strange. They also found out they actually found Lori and Chad. They had run off to Hawaii. They were both in Hawaii. They said that the kids, they didn't know where they were. They were with family friends. There is no evidence that the children went with them to Hawaii. However, they did find Tylee, the 17-year-old, her cell phone was in Lori Vallow's possession. So she took the teenager's phone, but the kids were apparently not with them, and they are not cooperating as to like where they are. Now,
so how many missing kids in total?
Two.
Two.
Okay. It's a 17-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Okay.
And the daughter is hers.
Right.
The son is her stepson.
Right.
He's 7 years old.
Okay.
His dad is dead. Her brother killed his dad.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? This is very complicated.
Right.
But like I said, this is a very, very... She has been arrested as of, I believe it was February 20th. She was arrested just because she was supposed to produce the children because she was being very cagey about like where they were and everything. So she was like, okay, well, you need to produce the children by like a certain deadline. It was like January 23rd or something like that. And she didn't do that. So they arrested her and brought her back to Idaho. Now, this was only like a week or two ago. This was like the very end of February. And they brought her back and she is still not cooperating as to where these children are. So all they're charging her with at the moment, like now that she's arrested, is like felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children.
Right.
Because that's kind of all. They don't have any bodies. They don't have anything like that. But the fact that she just left them somewhere, apparently.
And where is she saying they are?
She's either... Well, like I said, at first she said at least the little kid was with a friend in Arizona. But when they went and investigated, he wasn't there. So she's just being very, like, she's apparently not cooperating with the investigation.
Not a very good liar. She
all.
She could say the little kid is with the 17-year-old and they ran away.
Yeah,
Not
it's
a
like,
very
I'm
good
not
liar.
really sure, like, why she's not saying that. I don't really know, like, what her problem is. She seems like maybe a crazy person,
Well,
just
probably
like in
dumb.
the last one.
Probably dumb, yeah.
Yeah, so she is, like, facing a whole bunch of charges at this point. No murder, no nothing like that, because they don't know where the children are at this point.
An intelligent criminal would have said, she took that baby and ran. I don't know where they went.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If she probably would never.
She's
face any
apparently
charges.
just not talking.
Right.
Like, I guess they put her in jail in Hawaii.
Right.
She has like a $5 million bail.
Right.
And they're going to extradite her back to Idaho, where the children disappeared from, or where they were last seen.
Yeah.
The creepy thing about it is that they're not entirely sure when the children were last seen, because they knew it was sometime in November of 2019. Now, the littler kid was seen like at school, and so he was like at a private school or like a special school because he had autism and stuff. So he was like unenrolled from school. Tylee, who was 17, she had been homeschooled. So they didn't really, so the school system didn't have any record of her.
Yeah.
Now, when he was taken out of school, the excuse that the mom gave was, it's like, oh, well, I got a job offer in another state, like after her husband had been shot and killed.
Right.
And it's like, so we're taking him out of school because we're moving somewhere else, or, you know, and I'm going to homeschool him from now on. So they didn't keep track of him anymore because she, like, officially unenrolled
So
him
what's
from
the
school.
theory? What do they think happened?
They are thinking, I mean, no one knows exactly, but the fact that she's in this, and I know they're saying it's not a cult, but it kind of sounds a little bit like a cult. I don't know if it's a cult or if she just, like, took it too far and, like, she thinks that, like, the fucking rapture is coming.
Do they think they killed these kids?
I think that that's the overarching, you know, this is all allegedly at this point because they have no idea where these children are. There's no evidence that they're dead, but there's also no evidence that they're alive.
Right.
They just have no idea where they are, what she could have done with them. It seems very strange that she had like this self-storage unit that had all their stuff in it.
Maybe she doesn't know where they are.
I don't know. It's just, it's so fucking weird. And the fact that 3 people are dead, her ex-husband.
Yeah.
Chad Daybell, she's dating now, his wife, who they thought died of natural causes, but now they're like doing an autopsy because they think she might have been poisoned. And also her brother that killed the husband, he turned up dead too. And they don't really know how he died either. And they're doing an autopsy in that situation.
So they have his body.
Yeah. Those 3 they know.
Right.
Those 3 are dead. They have their bodies, the adults. The kids, they have no idea where they are.
That's some weird shit.
And no one has seen them since November of 2019. Like I said, I believe the 7-year-old, you know, they kind of know when the last time he was because he had been in school and stuff. Tylee might have been missing longer because she was homeschooled and I guess no one was like checking her. So she wasn't like turning up at school every day or anything like that where anyone would notice that she was gone.
You know what this kind of looks like to me?
What's that?
Looks like a long series of what you would call in the Islamic world honor killings.
Or maybe the mom
Yeah, look like
really believes that the rapture is coming.
Yeah.
And decided she was going to kill the kids.
Right.
To get them into heaven first.
Well,
or maybe she didn't give a shit about
when
them.
I'm saying honor killings, you know, in the Islamic world, some girl, she turns out she's not a virgin, they kill her. Could be that this might be something where you have a couple of hardcore Christians that are involved in this weird cult. Maybe some of it they've made up on their own, and they're like, we have to take this one out because they committed adultery. We have to take this one out because this one's cursed. You know what I mean? The little kid, because it's cursed with some kind of weird autism. We take this one out because she's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe they're killing family members because they're transgressing.
Although I kind of feel like if Chad Daybell's wife was murdered, I kind of feel like that happened, and also Lori's husband getting killed. I think that was because the two of them wanted to get together, and they were just getting like some impediments out of the way.
Yeah,
allegedly.
But if they killed that woman, they would have justified it religiously.
Yeah, perhaps.
Like, this one has transgressed on this and that, so we can get her out of the way, and then we can be together because we're holy.
It does seem like that,
because we're
doesn't
believers,
it?
Right? Yeah.
This is like some fucked up shit.
But you know, this is all just we're just.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
I just know, and this, like I said, this is a very recent case. Lori was only arrested like a couple of weeks ago in Hawaii, and she is awaiting extradition to Idaho, as far as I know at this point. Pretty much the entire family, as well as Lori's like older son, whose name is Colby.
Like the cheese.
They all think that if she didn't kill them, then she for sure knows what happened to them or knows where they are.
Yeah.
So they're all pretty much telling her, hey, why don't you like come out and just admit it? But she, as far as I know, is not talking. So I don't know what's going to happen with this, because like this is still like some ongoing shit we're doing. I didn't even mean to do like fucking current events on this shit, really. But it's
this
like
is so complicated.
This was one that like somebody requested just like a couple weeks ago, and then I looked into it. I'm like, holy crap, this is like the craziest fucking shit ever.
It's a good one. I can't come up with anything because the case
and it's like all and the fact that the two kids go missing, and then they find out that like there's 3 people are dead.
Yeah.
And one of them was clearly a murder, but was probably self-defense. And then the other 2 were not considered murders at the time, but now they're kind of wondering, hey, maybe this was murders.
Yeah, that's weird.
This is some fucked up shit. There's like some messed up fucking families out there. Holy crap. My family is like so normal in comparison. As far as I know, nobody in my family ever murdered anybody.
Yeah, there's not enough information to know.
Not that I know of. But yeah, I'm going to have to like follow up on this shit, because
something you got to keep an eye on.
I kind of feel like allegedly, well, there has to be some reason why Lori, the mom, is not cooperating. She knows what happened to them. I'm not saying they're dead.
We'll see.
Well, they probably are. I may hate to say it. Yeah. But there has to be some reason that she's not cooperating with the investigation. There has to be some reason why she wanted them out of the way, or why isn't she just telling them where... She had a deadline. They said, look, we're going to put you in prison or we're going to put you in jail unless you tell us where the children are by X date. And she would not do that.
They're dead.
I kind of feel like they probably are. I kind of feel like maybe they did that shit, allegedly.
Yeah. Or she gave them away. She doesn't know where they are.
And she doesn't know where they are anymore because she just like didn't want... She thought she was going to get raptured and she didn't want to deal with it.
Gave them to some other religious people. Something like that. But
because that does kind of happen, though.
But that one girl's 17. She'd be old enough, smart enough, supposedly, to get out of it.
To smack the shit out of her mom, which it sounded like somebody needed to.
Yeah.
Holy crap. But yeah, this is a fucked up case. And I'm going to be like following... I couldn't believe the fucking details of this shit when I was like reading about it. I'm like, what? So I can't remember like who recommended this case. It was like a few weeks ago. Yeah. But it's like, thank you whoever
that's
did.
A good one, yeah.
I guess, because that's like some...
We'll keep our eye out on it.
Some messed up shit. I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. All right, so it's getting... kind of late on a Saturday night. I
go find the kitties.
I'm very tired because Pookie kept waking me up in the middle of the night, like she does. She jumps on my chest at 4 a.m. It's like, hey, you up?
Yeah, she looks right down at you.
She looks, and you can see like her big old
okay?
like beady eyes, like looking in your face, like, hey, you awake?
Yeah.
Well, now I am, because you just jumped on my chest. Your little 12-pound self.
Yeah.
Or however much she weighs now, I don't know.
Probably.
I think she was 9 pounds last time we took her to the vet. She's pretty small, but she's very like
runs
dense.
Across my chest. She doesn't step on my fucking crotch anymore. Every foot would hit it. Bah!
She did that on purpose. She thought that was the funniest shit ever.
She knew she got a reaction.
Yeah. Well, what she does to me is she'll come up like around. She comes up like around the side of me, and then she likes to like knead on my shoulder, but she only likes it if it's skin, because I started sleeping with like blankets and stuff like piled on there, because otherwise she'll claw me in the shoulder and the neck,
not good enough,
and it'll wake me up, and it's like she doesn't like that, so sometimes she'll come up there and then she'll like move the blanket. She's like, no, I want flesh. And then she'll do it like that, which obviously wakes me up. But yeah, she woke me up at like 4 a.m. She woke me up at 6 a.m. She doesn't do it every night, but she does it enough that. But she's so cute. You can't do anything. But and if you guys like follow us on Instagram, I posted like the funniest little picture of her where I got like a perfect picture of her like laying on her back.
Big smile on her face.
With a big smile on her face and like one of her little pillow. I bought her like all these like little Christmas toys, and she has like this little, it's like a little pillow with like a little jingle bell on it and stuff. And it was just like stuck on that everything, and she was like, hooray, like laying on her back, and it was so fucking cute.
It's a hilarious cat.
She is fucking hilarious. She cracks us up like every single day. All right, so that'll probably do it for episode 187 about 4 missing persons cases that you guys have recommended. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Look into the shit. Like I said, most of these are fairly recent, so if it should go without saying, but if anybody has any information about these, please look them up. It's like every single one has a phone number. You can call the FBI or whatever, to give any information to find out what happened to these people. And that will do it for episode 187. Remember, if you like the show, please like, share, subscribe on all your social media. Just share everywhere. It's like we need more subscribers. We need more patrons. So if you want to like support the show financially, it would be much appreciated. You can go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13 o'clock podcast, or you can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com. And there is a button in the sidebar that goes to a PayPal account. If you'd like to give a one-time donation, any little bit is much appreciated. Also, if you want to send us movies or something like that, you can message me. If you don't have our street address, I will send it to you if you want to send us some stuff. Anything you send us, we love presents and money. So, And that'll do it for this episode. We will see you next time. Bye.